Hello, hello, hello. Testing one, two, three. I do believe we're live. I gotta probably change my go live announcement from hello again, fellas, because I'm streaming more regularly, so. I need to fix my beard or keep mewing. Fuck, dude. Okay, I gotta get better about keeping this stinking mic close to my face. Yeah, lots of news today. Apparently, fucking autism is dropping. That's cool. Uh, looking forward to that. Um, yeah, we have a presser from Caroline Levitt. Shit. What else is that? I know. Oh wait, fuck. This is a little more ad hoc. Ad hoc? I don't think I'm using that correctly. More free. I feel like we should probably rewatch the end of the. Oh, actually, um, this was insane. Sorry, you guys can't see this. Whoops. So Netanyahu responded to people blaming Israel for Charlie Kirk's murder. um, and I think there was also something where he was talking about annexing Judea and Samaria, so just the entire West Bank, if I'm not mistaken. Destiny and Myron Gaines had a 4-hour Israel-Palestine debate. Oh my god. I'm so good. I'll pass on that, but I mean, if people really want to, we can watch that. What else do we got here? Oh yeah, I want to look at what the fuck they're talking about with funding Antifa. I mean, oh, there's also the Tom Homan scandal. Yeah. Man, there's a lot going on today. But unfortunately, I gotta have a pretty short stream. So let's get started with our dear leader. Oh, what the Fox angle? Let's do the white.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
Including the afternoon, the president will be making.
Caroline Levitt is going to enlighten us on the glorious happenings of our dear leader.
A major announcement focused on the childhood autism epidemic, alongside his top health advisors who are working to make America healthy again.
Okay, I did a little pre-research on this. Apparently, the collection, so there was a bunch of studies that a scientific journal not a scientific journal, some organization finished reviewing them, and the thing they're announcing is that this review shows a correlation between acetaminophen, which is the active ingredient in Tylenol, and autism in children. So this is bullshit because there is a much better study, higher quality of I think it's called a sibling something study, where they compare. This was done in Sweden, where they compare children from the same mother, but one was born when the mother was taking acetaminophen, and one was born when they weren't. And in this study, they found no correlation. So we're likely going to just have pregnant women being treated worse, which is kind of par for the course here. But fuck. I also got to think, when I make points, I got to fit them in under a minute because I got to get them clips.
This will be a powerful display of how the entire Trump administration is committed to addressing root causes of chronic conditions and diseases, embracing full transparency in government, and championing gold standard science. Tonight, the president will depart to New York City ahead of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. He will be joined in New York City by the First Lady. Tomorrow morning, President Trump will deliver a major speech touting the renewal of American strength around the world, his historic accomplishments in just 8 months, including the ending of 7 global wars and conflicts. The president will also touch upon how globalist institutions have significantly decayed the world order, and he will articulate his straightforward and constructive, including the end around the world, his historic accomplishments in just 8 months, including the ending of 7 global wars and conflicts. The president will also touch upon how globalist institutions have significantly decayed the world order, and he will articulate his straightforward and constructive vision for the world.
The liberal world order that has endured world wars has come out on top of every single other system. That liberal world order that is just so terrible. Fuck. I need a sound bit of what's not Joe Biden, Alex Jones. Jesus. Talking about the globalists.
The president will also be hosting bilateral meetings with the UN Secretary General and the leaders of Ukraine, Argentina, and the European Union. The president will also later in the day hold a multilateral meeting with Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, the UAE, and Jordan. After these important meetings, the president will attend a reception tomorrow night with more than 100 world leaders before returning to Washington, D.C.
Oh my god, we can actually do the Fibonacci. Oh god, we could... this might be... Oh no, this is 6 days ago. I'll have Tim Slop queued up.
Oh boy, it's your favorite.
Whatever.
On Thursday here at the White House, President Trump will welcome President Erdogan of Turkey for a bilateral meeting. And on Friday, the president will travel to Long Island for the Ryder Cup golf match between the United States and Europe.
Yeah, I mean, that shit about the the globalists disrupting the world order and presenting a much simpler world order. Yeah, that's not a good thing. We used to do, like, kingdoms and singular rulers, but we've moved into a more collaborative world. And just because Trump is incapable of grasping that something can be greater than the sum of its parts doesn't mean the entire world order has to be dismantled. Okay.
This event is one of the greatest sporting events in the world, and it would not be taking place this year without President Trump's help. President Trump signed an executive order last week preventing a strike that would have crippled the New York City area ahead of the tournament, and at the request of the 5 labor unions who all represent workers on the Long Island Railroad. One of the greatest golfers in the world, Bryson DeChambeau, praised the president's critical intervention, saying, quote, "When the possibility of a strike threatened to disrupt transportation and attendance, President Trump stepped up and took the action needed to protect this world-class competition." Thanks to President Trump's decisive leadership, the Ryder Cup experience will be everything fans in the golf community deserve. Again, that's a quote from the great golfer Bryson DeChambeau. Now let's all hope the American Ryder Cup team can take...
I'm really glad the president's doing really important things, especially in the wake of, you know, a very close personal friend and ally of his passing, like shutting down labor union or ending labor strikes about golf competitions. Cool.
take home the trophy. In other news, positive economic data continues to pour in. Brand new polling shows that Americans' faith in the economy and the direction of the nation is back on track and shooting even higher. Home ownership is more affordable, with mortgage rates dropping to a 3-year low. For new home buyers, this represents a $250 decline in your monthly mortgage payment, or nearly $3,000 a year. And President Trump has made it very clear he wants to continue to see mortgage rates decline to a record low, just like they did in his first term. Thanks to President Trump's unleashing energy dominance, gas prices are dropping and Americans are spending the smallest share of their disposable income on gasoline since 2005. Additionally, the annual cost to own and operate a new vehicle is down by nearly 6% over the last year. Americans are earning more and they are spending more.
Again, this is just information environments, right? If I look into it and I see it's false, I'm in some small way internally vindicated for something. But if someone sees me look it up and sees it's false, they'll just say the study's fake. Should the White House press secretary have to fucking cite their sources? I think that'd be pretty reasonable, instead of just amorphous polling, studies, research. Like, cool.
More than ever before, after inflation outpaced for 26.
I'll define my gender when you define your sources. That'll be the deal.
Straight months under Joe Biden, real wages have increased nearly every month since President Trump took office, with wages for blue-collar workers rising at the fastest rate in 6 decades. Retail sales are also booming, up 5% over last year, and the stock market is booming, and Americans' retirement accounts continue to do well, with the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all hitting new record highs. In fact, the S&P 500 is up nearly 15%, and the NASDAQ is up more than 21% since Election Day. As part of President Trump's mission to restore America as the manufacturing superpower of the world, he has secured nearly $9 trillion in U.S. investment.
Okay. What Trump wants is for us to be the base-level manufacturing superpower. In terms of high-level manufacturing, I'm pretty sure we were very close to if not number one. But in terms of raw steel production, that's not us, because our economy's moved way past that. Our labor force is whatever.
9 times more than Biden attracted in his entire 4-year term, and we expect that number to be upwards of $15 trillion very soon. We're already seeing the initial economic benefits of these investments, with industrial production recently rising to an all-time high. President Trump built the greatest economy in the history of...
Okay.
We're already seeing the initial is up nearly 15%, and the NASDAQ is up more than 21% since Election Day. As part of President Trump's mission to restore America as the manufacturing superpower of the world, he has secured nearly $9 trillion in U.S. investment, nearly 9 times more than Biden attracted in his entire 4-year term, and we expect that number to be upwards of $15 trillion very soon. We're already seeing the initial economic benefits of these investments, with industrial production recently rising to an all-time high.
Again, this is patently stupid. These are promises of investment. They haven't broken ground in anything. These rising jobs in manufacturing, that is from Biden-era policy. This is insane that they get to cite people saying that they'll do something and starting the legal process, maybe, as the reason that they're seeing current numbers go up. That's just on its face stupid.
President Trump built the greatest economy in the history of the world in his first term, and we are witnessing him do it all over again. Now, before I open it up to questions, I do want to speak on the heinous political assassination of Charlie Kirk. As President Trump powerfully stated yesterday, this assassination was an attack on everything that makes the United States of America the greatest country on earth. But that attack has completely failed. The heartwarming response from the overwhelming majority of the American people over the past 2 weeks is all of the proof that you need. The assassin who took Charlie's life can destroy flesh and blood, but he can never destroy the values that Charlie stood for. All across the country, millions of Americans have prayed, hosted vigils, attended church services, became politically engaged for the first time, and honored the legacy of Charlie and the ideals he died speaking for. The beautiful memorial service attended by President Trump and 100,000 great Americans in State Farm Stadium yesterday was just the latest example. And Erica Kirk's
This evangelical memorial service brought to you by State Farm. I don't know. Oh, man.
mercy was one of the greatest acts of grace this world has ever seen.
After the entire cabinet is like, yeah, these evil liberals, and then Trump gets up there and says, I actually hate my enemies. Yeah, she's good for saying that she forgives him, but I hate my enemies, I really do. I want to see them hurt, I want to see harm come to them. It's like, okay, well, that kind of undoes the one little bit of, grace and compassion, does it not?
May God continue to watch over Erica and their beautiful children. Unfortunately, there have been some jarring exceptions to this unity. This past Friday, 58 House Democrats voted no, and 38 voted present on a resolution that simply stated, condemning in the strongest possible terms the assassination of Charles James Kirk.
That is just a lie. Yes, that was contained in it, but the rest of it was about honoring him. So, and those people in Congress that didn't do it were from the Black and Hispanic caucuses that felt that he was contrary to having them in office.
In all forms of political violence. There were no strings attached to this vote. This was a simple gesture of human decency to denounce political violence. I wish I could say that this was only a...
Well, call it right or wrong, but, I think if there's a reasonable thing, it's like, okay, you don't want to co-sign everything he says. I believe if it was condemning political violence and full stop, I don't think there would be a single no or present vote.
Fringe group, but 96 votes is nearly half of the entire House Democrat caucus. And they didn't just vote against this basic resolution condemning political violence. A number of those same Democrats took to the House floor to smear Charlie Kirk's name. The man wasn't even buried yet, and Democrat members of Congress were denigrating his memory on the floor of the House of Representatives.
And you guys were vowing retribution and calling for civil war and ascribing all of these high-minded ideals to him. Like... If we're gonna say that all of this is immoral, that's fine, but don't pretend that one side is smearing him or trying to rewrite things. Come on.
This was truly a sad moment and a clear reflection of how radical the Democrat Party has become. Many Democrats in elective office have now been totally captured by a radical fringe of the far left base who want to dehumanize every person they disagree with. We must continue to call this wickedness out. It's the only way that our nation can heal. For too long, past leaders have offered platitudes while political violence has been allowed to fester and harm innocent Americans.
Well, it would be nice if Trump could at least offer the platitude.
There has been coordinated campaigns dating back years, spearheaded by radical left-wing organizations centered on dehumanizing, intimidating, doxing, and even attacking Americans whom they disagree with. These groups have radicalized impressionable individuals to foment violence. An attempted transgender assassin traveled to Justice Brett Kavanaugh's family home with plans to end his life. An attempted assassin came within an inch of ending President Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, and on the campaign trail, another attempted assassin tried to kill the president at his golf club in Florida. A left-wing assassin shot United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson right in the back in the heart of New York City.
So that guy even was, what's his face, Mangione, even like Democrat? Or was he just uber progressive or like single issue?
City. ICE agents are facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults for simply doing their jobs. Violent radical left-wing mobs
Also,
engaged
like,
in illegal behavior,
10
targeted
billion
Jewish Americans,
times the
and shut
amount
down
of
America's
vaccine.
college campuses under the previous administration. Left-wing mobs burned down Tesla dealerships out of, quote, protest of Elon Musk and his policies. In May, a left-wing activist
not
shouting
protest?
"Free Palestine" murdered 2 innocent Israeli embassy staffers
Yes.
outside of the D.C. Jewish Museum.
The pro-Palestinian crowd, famously supporters of the Democratic Party.
Here in Washington. These are just a few examples, prominent examples, of the growing left-wing political violence in our country.
Not gonna mention
Enough is
Hortman.
enough, and as President Trump has promised, he will directly
gonna
address
mention
the
the
dark
Pelosi's.
sources funding and supporting this domestic terrorism to finally restore order in our country. The American
Funding it?
people can expect further, very strong action on this very soon. Everyone, Republican, Democrat, everyone in between, we all deserve to live in a country where we do not have to fear for our lives simply for stating what we believe in. With that,
True.
I will take your question. In today's new
So-
media seat, we have Monica Page, who is the White House correspondent for Turning Point USA's news organization on the front lines. Monica, thank you for being here. We're so sorry for the loss of Charlie. I know you
do I
worked
get
for him.
that
You were very
seat?
close to him, and we appreciate your being in the new media seat and also your commitment to covering the White House. You are here every day, just like the rest of everyone in this room.
there
So
been a
why don't you
liberal
kick us off
host?
today?
Thank
Or
you so
show
much,
in
Caroline.
that new media
I
seat?
don't think you realize how much it means to me to be here in this seat, especially on behalf of Turning Point USA and Frontlines. We greatly appreciate it. We also greatly appreciate the outpouring of support and just really
got the
kind words that we
camera.
heard yesterday at the memorial service. That means more to us than I don't think anybody ever knows. And even the global support that we're seeing for Charlie has been overwhelming, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you so much. I have 3 questions, if I may, on the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk. Government and local officials said that Antifa inscriptions were engraved in these bullet casings that killed Charlie Kirk. It appears to be a trend, especially after what we saw in the Annunciation Church shooting, Catholic Church shooting. Additionally, Stephen Miller recently commented on the rise in this kind of violence, saying there is a domestic terrorist movement growing in this country. But the president is designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization.
Antifa is not even like an organization. It's I think, I don't even know if there is any leadership structure to it. There's like people that consider themselves to be an Antifa, but it's not like a card-carrying membership thing. It's just like a name that people throw out. There's not some big funder behind it. It's not a hierarchy. It's a decentralized movement.
I'm wondering, what is the approach to holding these people accountable, just to ensure that violence like this just is eradicated moving forward?
Sure. Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president
okay,
intends
so-
to sign
A amorphous, decentralized organization will be called a terrorist organization. What do we think the chances are that they're going to use this to label any sort of left-wing activism as domestic terrorism? We'll see, I guess.
that executive order very soon, as soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on, because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across
is there
this country
any
who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but
Is it an organization or is this it a phrase?
there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here in this briefing room today of violence from Antifa.
for it,
I will just read a
Caroline.
few. In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck. Also in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside an ICE facility in
Charged
Portland, which
or
for weeks
convicted?
prior had been under siege from the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive
Whoa. Holy shit, it's the fucking Antichrist, according to these people.
which for weeks prior had been under siege from the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive device outside of the office of the Republican Attorney General of Alabama. In July 2023, Antifa members linked to abortionist group Jane's Revenge firebombed pro-life facilities and vandalized churches. In
Aren't there people that get assaulted for going into a whatever?
January 2022, a suspected Antifa member was arrested for bringing a pipe bomb to a pro-Trump event. In January 2021, an Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples for those in the room who don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety and our national security, but this administration knows that it is. That's why the president will be signing this order. And we will also be, most importantly, looking at who is funding Antifa and who is funding these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Thank you. And Charlie Kirk died exercising his First Amendment right, willingly debating, conversing with everybody and anybody. That was what he did. So what message does this White House have now to all Americans who feel like they are too afraid to express their beliefs, their values, their morals in the wake of such horrific violence?
I think the president has answered this, and I will leave it to his response, Monica, where he so beautifully said, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking up. We have to keep speaking our mind.
On Fox and Friends, his fucking response was, you gotta keep doing it. All these politicians, they gotta keep doing it. You know, I have great security. They don't have great security, but I got great security, so I'm not too worried. Like,
I know that's what Charlie would want us to do, and we have a right to free speech in this country. The president supports it. It is protected by our beautiful Constitution, and Americans should not cower in fear. They should rise up in courage to continue speaking the truth.
And on a lighter note, Caroline, sure. I'd love to know what your favorite memory of Charlie is.
Sure. Charlie was a great guy, and he was, of course, a very influential person in the conservative movement, in the MAGA movement. He was so helpful to the president during the campaign and to all of us who worked on that campaign, that historic campaign. I myself had many great memories going on Charlie's amazing podcast and his show. He was always willing to text people with words of encouragement. In fact, my last text exchange with him was the day before he died. And he was asking for my husband and I's address to send a children's book to our son. And I think that just speaks to the type of person that he was. And I know so many of us here at the White House are going to miss him very much.
Was it Cash Patel's book?
Gabe.
Caroline, thank you. Regarding the autism announcement,
sure.
Why now?
I don't know. Let's do inventor of autism revealed. There we go. That's a banging stream title.
Administration have new data that hasn't been published previously showing a possible link between acetaminophen and autism?
I know there's been many reports about what this announcement at 4 o'clock will be, Gabe. The president is very excited about this, so I don't want to scoop the president of the United States and our Secretary of Health and Human Services, but what I can assure you is that Robert F. Kennedy and the incredible health team that this president has put together are really viewing things in a much different lens, and they are paying attention to
whatever. I couldn't think of a joke.
To studies and the gold standard of science and research that many in this city for far too long have turned a blind eye to. So I think Americans are going to be enlightened and proud of what they hear later this afternoon, but I won't get ahead of the president on exactly what that announcement entails.
On a different topic, going back to the president's social media post from over the weekend regarding the DOJ and his seeming frustration that they hadn't taken.
Wait, yeah, what? What are they gonna say about this? It was actually a rogue staffer that released something that is untrue, and the media is evil.
In action quickly enough. I want to point to something that the president said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the president going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the president is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability. And it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. And
did you ever hear Biden say, I want you to look into these people, I want you to go after these people? Was that ever a thing that happened?
nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey.
What up, bruh? How you doing?
And like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land. And I think the president is reaffirmed in those frustrations and his hope for accountability by the millions and millions of people who reelected him to this office with a mandate to demand accountability. And the president has not been shy about this, Gabe.
Oh, wait, yeah. Fucking the DOJ under Biden was investigating Hunter. Yeah, right. You imagine if the DOJ, like Pam Bondi, started looking into Trump's kids? How fucking fast would that get shut down? Oh, actually, it would be shut down instantly. Tom Homan's getting investigated for trying to take a bribe? Boom. Shut down.
In fact, when he traveled to the Department of Justice earlier this year, all of you were there to cover it. He said, quote, "I demand a full and complete accountability for wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people gave a mandate to investigate and root the corruption out of our system, and that's what the president wants to see done."
Carolyn.
Ed.
On the autism issue again, there are...
The people who went after Trump. Okay, there's a difference, though. Trump is guilty of a lot of more of these things. I'm sorry, I think there's a difference between investigating, like, drone strikes, which, again, should be investigated, and any corruption thing should be investigated, versus investigations on an insurrection. And, like, if they were of the same ilk, then I'd say fine. But it's like one of these is not like the other, you know? Like, I'm sorry, there is no parallel to this. Thanks for banning that.
reams of scientific research that suggests there's no clear link between autism and acetaminophen usage. You're suggesting today they may have new information on this. A lot of it, and this entire debate, has the potential to confuse women, especially pregnant women, about what to do. What do you say to those that say what you're doing today potentially just introduces more confusion into the debate?
I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country.
I don't think anyone's confused except you. As we get better at diagnosing things, we see more instances of them. And we've learned that it doesn't have to be like the most extreme version to be the thing. So the insurrection case, he was found to have insurrected, like, but the Supreme Court said, well, we're actually just gonna ignore that part of the 14th Amendment and move on from it. Sorry. And also, we're gonna give you presidential immunity. Like, so while he wasn't, like, there was no real backlash that happened, it was because the Supreme Court willingly said, we're not going to apply this part of the Constitution. Oh, we're going to actually give you immunity. So, kinda. And also, whether or not he was guilty, they had justified reason to look into him and to take legal action. He had his day in court. Like, this is all above the board stuff. And Biden wasn't the one telling them to do this. Like, Hillary was investigated, Trump was investigated, Obama was investigated. Yes, okay. What I'm saying is he's pissed that they investigated him in the first place. Which, it's like, what? Yes, I'm aware. I just never thought it would go so far as to allowing an insurrectionist, as decided by the lower courts, to run for office again. Like, I feel like that's as bad as things get. I didn't think it would go that far. But, and that's, like, Trump's not pissed that at the conclusion, he's pissed that it even happened. You know?
A childhood epidemic that is chronic epidemic, disease epidemic that is plaguing America's youth.
Also, I'm reformatting the stream to work better for YouTube and stuff. So, like, I'm trying to be more segmented, video by video. And when I want to make a point, I gotta think it through in my head and fit it in under a minute so I can upload it as a clip to TikTok or YouTube Shorts.
Women are confused about that, and they want answers
The Dustin
to that.
Gray media empire shall spread.
And that's exactly what this administration is focused on finding. And before you jump to conclusions based on reports that the White House has not even confirmed, I would encourage everyone in this room to go into the 4 o'clock announcement with some critical thinking skills and with some open ears to actually listen to what the president and his team of outsiders have to say about this. And there will be a number of things that will be announced and discussed. And I think, I know as a mother myself, I speak, I believe, for many mothers across the country who really want answers to what is happening to our nation's children.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Like, and he does off stream, like, reacts. So I figured that'd be pretty easy to do. Because I think a big problem I'm having is integrating chat with, like, the recordings. I like this scroll bar at the bottom, but I either have to redo the script or have something vertical, because realistically, just with the way, like, chat, the nature of chat, it doesn't work well as, like, a underline thing. Like, it's funny, but I need some other, like, I have a lot of space above me, I think, so I could do that, probably. Yeah.
So again, I won't get ahead of the president, but I think everyone in this room needs to tone down the judgment before you even hear what people are going to say. Sure.
When you claim to have,
So too on the Holman investigation.
when you claim to have solved autism, I think you got to expect some fair criticism, motherfucker.
I mean, can you just speak to, did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case? And
I literally have liberal and soy as tags in my YouTube channel. Dude, I get reamed on YouTube. Like, this short has 4 likes. I mean, it's not like a ton of info, but they don't like you speaking the truth. Yeah, but I think it's good exposure. So, anyways.
does Holman have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Holman never took the
No, but he agreed to take it. You motherfucker.
$50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who...
That's not what entrapment is. Entrapment isn't you willingly doing something like falling into a honeypot. Entrapment would be like if a cop was putting a gun to your head and telling you to commit a crime. Oh my God.
They knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Homan did absolutely nothing wrong.
Seems like all the more reason to investigate them and test if they'll be immune to corruption. Isn't there a Nordic country that does that?
Even the president's Department of Justice, even Kash Patel's FBI, looked into this just to make sure. They had a number of different prosecutors and FBI agents who looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing.
Dude, every single one of these fucking press conferences is everything is up 1,000,000,000%. Prices are, everything is free now. We actually looked into ourselves and we've committed no crimes. We're better than every other country. And everyone respects us and we're solving every world war ever. Yeah, just don't look at the prices at the grocery store.
In the White House and the president stand by Tom Homan 100% because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he is a brave public servant who has done a phenomenal job in helping the president shut down the border. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions on far-left violence.
Sure.
The first one, the president said yesterday that the bullet hit Charlie, but it was aimed at every one of us. Do you and your colleagues have a heightened sense of fear following this shooting and this far-left violence we're seeing across the country?
I certainly think there's a heightened sense of awareness by conservatives across the country, by all of us here at the White House. Again, as I said to Monica, many of us were personal friends with Charlie and had involvement with Turning Point before we came and served our government in this way. So certainly it's a very shocking incident, and I think
if you go by number of deportations, yes, but it's also a really, really harsh swing that I would argue goes over the line, because you can do what he's doing, but there's a level of cruelty to it that is, in my view, unacceptable. That being said, he did still agree to take the bribe.
you know, it's very unfortunate that those of us who work in this movement have to think about violence just for speaking our minds and for supporting President Trump.
And as a follow-up on that, I asked the president last night on Air Force One about this pattern of transgender violence we're seeing. You know, Charlie's killer lived with his boyfriend who identifies as transgender, and then we have the Annunciation shooting, the Covenant shooting, all of these incidents. The president said that we're looking into transgender violence. Does that mean the FBI is looking into it? And can you give any more clarity on how the administration is viewing this uptick in specifically transgender violence?
It's definitely something worth looking into, and I think anyone who denies that at this point is being willfully ignorant. And the administration is taking it seriously, all causes of violence, and
still no mention of the Hortmans.
Why these people would be driven to such evil and such hatred. And there's probably many answers to that question, but the administration is really focused on all of them. For individual investigations and cases, of course, the FBI and the Department of Justice are leading those.
It's just such a shame, because, like, the reason this rhetoric works so well is because people, mostly on the right, view just trans people generally as weird. They don't get it, so it's a very easy scapegoat for the administration. I just feel so bad for that community. Oh, someone unfollowed. Nice.
But as for this overall violence and domestic terrorism that we're seeing, the White House and the president's policy team will be leading the charge, and that really begins with designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. And I can assure you there will be additional actions to come. Sure, in the pink.
Thanks, Caroline. Liz Landers with PBS NewsHour. I just wanted to follow up quickly on something that the president had said yesterday. So we heard from Erica Kirk. She said she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And then right after that, we heard from the president who said, I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. How does that square with bringing down the temperature of political violence in this
That is a great question.
country? And then, if I could, I had a follow-up on Venezuela, too.
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage with the president in an unthinkable moment, in the midst of an unthinkable tragedy, and was leaning on the president for support during that time. And he was there to give it to her, as well as the vice president and many other top-ranking cabinet officials. Kayla.
Thanks, Caroline. On TikTok, the deal. How much is the deal? And if you can't give an exact number to how much the deal is, when can we expect to learn how much the deal is being valued at? And then separately, who are the members involved in the deal? Like, can you share any more details there?
So I don't have a specific number for you, nor am I going to confirm the specific individuals and entities in the deal, Kayla, but I do have several details I'm happy to run through for all of you, and the president will be signing the deal, the official deal, later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials.
A majority American or wholly American?
In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored...
Sorry to harp on this, but wasn't this the exact deal that TikTok offered like a year ago?
Securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be stored on servers operated by Oracle in the United States, protected from surveillance or interference by foreign adversaries. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States outside of ByteDance's control. And TikTok will remain globally interoperable, meaning TikTok users in the U.S. will be able to see videos posted by users in other countries and vice versa. While I don't have a number on the specific deal, we do expect that thanks to the president's leadership and the securement of this historic deal, businesses using TikTok will generate as much as $178 billion in economic activity within the U.S. over the next 4 years. So this is great news, not just for the millions of American youth who use TikTok. Their data will be safe and secure with this new deal. They'll continue to use this very fun app. But it's also great news for all of the small business owners who have really been able to make a living off of the use of TikTok as well.
And if I could just get one more as it relates to China, on crop prices with farmers, as there's still no official trade deal with China, farmers are getting a little bit antsy navigating prices being weak and not strong. How is the administration, thinking about farmers right now? Is there anything we can expect to see from the administration on, sort of bailing farmers out should prices continue to not work in their favor?
Well, the administration is completely understands the anxiety of farmers. We're very much aware of this issue. It has been a part of our discussions, the trade team's discussions with their Chinese counterparts. As for any specific actions, I don't have any news on that for you today, but I can fully assure you the entire National Economic Council in this building, as well as our Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, have been talking with the trade team about this. There's been many meetings on this, and they are on the ball, but I don't have anything specific for you today. Sure, Selena.
Thanks, Caroline. But the case against Letitia James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked Attorney General Eric Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. Letitia James completely abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively
Roblox
and openly
reference?
engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was
let's see.
prosecute Donald Trump.
What
She was
is-
saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump
Why
before
is
she even knew if Donald Trump
James
committed a
being
crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. She actively campaigned on that. She also led the witch hunt, the financial fraud investigation against President Trump and the Trump
Didn't they find it?
organization in an appeals court tossed that case out, a $500 million civil fraud penalty in August, which was another win for the president, and exonerated him of this witch hunt and showed that this is an individual who is corrupt and abused her oath of office. And we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property.
And this just happened to be found? Do you think there was targeted investigation?
Property disclosures that raise serious legal questions.
But why won't the president accept the conclusions of his Justice Department to not bring charges against Letitia James? In fact, you had Bondi and Blanche top DOJ leadership who were against ousting Eric Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump.
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that, whether you want to admit it or not.
How you doing, Bottom
Jeff, it's accountability.
Thanks,
Jeff.
President. Two foreign policy questions. President Putin has offered President Trump a one-year extension of the most recent treaty limiting nuclear weapons. Does the White House have a reaction to that? Does the president want to accept that offer? And then one separate issue, just generally, what is the president's response or reaction to the number of countries this week who are planning to or have recognized a Palestinian state?
Two great questions, Jeff. To your first question about Russia, the president is aware of this offer extended by President Putin, and I'll let him comment on it later. I think it sounds pretty good, but he wants to make some comments on that himself, and I will let him do that. As for all of these Western nations that are recognizing a Palestinian state, the president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision. He spoke about that in the UK, standing right next to his friend, Prime Minister Starmer, and he feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas. So he believes these decisions are just more talk and not enough action from some of our friends and allies. And I think you'll hear him talk about that tomorrow at the UN. Kristen.
Thanks, Brianna. Just going back to this Letitia James story. What does President Trump plan to do if the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, tells him that there is not enough evidence to bring his political opponents' cases or to charge those cases?
That's a hypothetical question, Kristen. That hasn't happened at this point.
But we did see one U.S. attorney not be able to find enough evidence, and now they no longer have a job. Is that something that you would consider?
Look, the president stands with Pam Bondi 100%.
Damn.
He made that clear this
They're coming out
weekend. He
swinging
answered
today.
questions from all of you last night on Air Force One. He said the same, and that's how he feels at this moment in time.
Just one more thing on the Attorney General
Go
with
ahead.
Pam Bondi.
Caroline, would the president support designating Russia as a sponsor of terrorism if it doesn't return kidnapped Ukrainian children? And secondly, we just found out through questioning that Hunter Biden sat in on the discussions of his pardons. What's the White House response to that?
Again, yes.
Unfortunately, I think it's unsurprising. And it's also very telling that one of the only pardons Joe Biden signed on his way out the door was the pardon of his son. Everything else was signed with an auto pen, but that one was clearly his own signature. To your first
Yeah, they were going to send him to the fucking gulag over a gun charge. Or a gun tax charge.
question about Russia, I have no news to share with you on that. Sure, in the yellow.
According to media reports, Maduro has sent a letter to President Trump, but President Trump avoided saying whether he has read it. Did he receive it?
We have seen this letter. Frankly, I think there were a lot of lies that were repeated by Maduro in that letter, and the administration's position on Venezuela has not changed. We view the Maduro regime as illegitimate, and the president has clearly shown that he's willing to use any and all means necessary to stop the illegal trafficking of deadly drugs from the Venezuelan regime into the United States of America.
Context of the letter?
Gilbert, go ahead.
The admin.
You and then go ahead. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Whitline with Borderhawk News. The admin has openly discussed taking legal action against officials in sanctuary jurisdictions. Just this last weekend, we saw Mayor of Evanston, Daniel Bliss, rioting and protesting outside of an ICE facility near Chicago. Are there plans to start arresting sanctuary mayors or governors going forwards?
Unless they commit a crime, I don't see them being arrested. But if they are violating federal law, if they are violating state law, then of course they should be arrested by state and local law enforcement. If they're violating federal law, then they can expect the consequences of that behavior. Nick.
Thank you, Caroline. Would the president like to see Congress pass a national holiday honoring Charlie Kirk annually?
That's an interesting question. I'm sure he wouldn't oppose such a thing. But you can pose that to him yourself next time you get the chance.
Sure thing. And to follow up too, I know the president is honoring Charlie with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Is there anything else that we don't know of in the works to honor Charlie?
Not at this time, but we do look forward to that Medal of Freedom ceremony very soon. Daniel.
Thanks, Caroline. This past Friday, Adam Schiff, Tim Kaine, they introduced a resolution on Capitol Hill aimed at stopping the successful kinetic strikes against narco-terrorists in
a marginalized person compared the gloating over Charlie Kirk.
If you knew it was me, would you have listened? It's hard to sympathize with Charlie, since he's functionally a pro-Russian propagandist to me, but I also don't understand the jeering crowd. Such relish seems somehow disgusting. It turns out that's how I looked when Dugina was killed. I don't regret a thing. Yeah, that's probably how you looked. Yes, that's true. $12 Kakan. Although, no, not really. Well, because Dasha Dugina really did call for the murder of Ukrainians. That happened, and she really did deny the massacre in Bucha. That happened. So, the gloating Ukrainians aren't accusing Dugina of anything she didn't say or do. Meanwhile, Liveashi, who are joyfully jeering and therefore ranting about Charlie Kirk's murder, accuse him of not considering black people human, of being a neo-Nazi, and so on. Check out Ben Shapira's episode today. He had a collection of some very well-known Livada Shez. There was Don Lemon, and all these idiots who just came out and said that Charlie Kirk was a childish Nazi, that he was a keiki, that he said that nerves weren't human, and so on. Charlie Kirk was vanilla, a completely milquetoast conservative, ordinary, extremely peaceful.
I mean, I'd probably disagree with the characterization of Charlie's points there. I mean, he did have that one segment where he was talking about how Michelle Obama and some other black congresswomen shouldn't have their jobs, and they stole it from white people, and then said, yeah, we know you don't have the intellectual capacity to hold this job or whatever, or like the brain horsepower or something like that. I don't know if I'd call him like a milquetoast, run-of-the-mill conservative. I think he probably leans farther to the right than like a neocon. But he's not a groyper. I don't know. I just think he shouldn't be reveling in his death, but probably shouldn't also whitewash his own statements. But I don't think he was calling for like killing anybody.
Caribbean Sea. What does a move like this, what type of message does it send to families, specifically families who have suffered at the hands of deadly narco drugs like these?
I definitely think it sends the wrong message. We wish that Democrats would get on board with a very simple idea of ending drug trafficking and securing our homeland. And I saw a report.
It's the same playbook every single fucking time. Simple idea, grand old idea. Terrible plan.
This morning that the Dominican Republic actually helped us seize a boat that was on its way from Venezuela to the United States of America with lots of deadly drugs on board. And so if you actually hear from Caribbean nations in the region, they are thankful and grateful for the administration's efforts, and they're working alongside us to end this plague of drug trafficking through their seas. Sure, Karen.
Over the weekend, Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries sent a letter to the White House asking for a meeting with the president to talk about government funding. Has the White House responded to that letter, and will the president sit down with them to talk about this, given that deadline is now 8 days away?
Discussions are ongoing with both Republican and Democratic members of Capitol Hill. I don't have any meetings or any scheduling updates for you today, but what I will share is that what this White House wants and what Republicans want. We want a clean funding extension to keep the government open. That's all we're advocating for, a simple, clean budget extension, a straightforward, responsible solution to keep the government open to November 21st and allow the full year appropriations process to move forward. And I will add, this is the same budget that the Democrats approved 6 months ago, just adjusted for inflation. And unfortunately, all of a sudden now, they want to shut down the government. And if the government is
Yeah, okay. Do we just have no memory that the opposite party will almost always cause a government shutdown when they can? Like, this happens almost every single time there's any budget-related thing. And I think the stipulation they're throwing in is something regarding, like, healthcare. So, like, I shouldn't be that hard to patch up. This is like the first leverage Democrats have had in a long time, so this will be an interesting moment for the Trump admin.
shut down, it's only going to, it will be the fault of the Democrats, and it will only hurt the most vulnerable in our country, our seniors, our veterans, our military families, and increasing security for members of Congress, which is something this White House and the administration supports. And if you look back at the statements made by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in the past, they too have advocated against a shutdown and for keeping the government open. Democrat Chuck Schumer himself said a shutdown would mean chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. He
That
said
was last time. This time, we're like, okay, the pain incurred by a shutdown is nothing compared to the pain currently being incurred.
Avoiding a shutdown is very good news for the country, for our veterans, for parents and children, for farmers, and for small businesses. Hakeem Jeffries also said it's about the harm. Families will be hurt if there is a government shutdown. Farmers will be hurt. Holiday travel will be impacted. Democrats clearly know what the right thing to do is here. It's to join with Republicans to pass this clean funding extension. That's what the White House and the president wants. And with that, we will see you all at 4 o'clock for this big announcement later on. Thanks, guys.
New autism is dropping in about half an hour.
Hello, everybody.
Let me find the AP. I like how what's his name, Pierce Morgan, tries to make it look like Erica Kirk is on the panel. Jesus. Alright. Let's just get this live stream open. Alright. Not up yet. So let's do... Let's watch this real quick.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous.
Like, the obvious question is, why the fuck would you respond to this? I hear people speculating that they're either going to reveal, have done, or something's going to come out, or they are going to do something that is horrendous, and they just want the attention to be on this. Now, it could be in relation to Gideon's Chariot 2, could be in relation to the Qatar bombing, or it could be something coming soon.
Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart.
If you'd shown me this like a year ago, I would have said, wow, AI has gotten really weird.
From his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this.
It's just like Candace Owens.
Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Tucker Carlson devastates Netanyahu in battle for... Oh my god. Oh, this will be something. Alright, we'll watch fucking TYT until we hit the, the 4 o'clock announcement.
Charlie didn't hate Jews.
Oh my god.
He loved Jews. He had tons of friends who were Jews. He loved the state of Israel. He loved going there. He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. He was, above all, resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars. I think now is exactly the wrong time to appropriate the memory of someone and the emotion that comes with that, the really intense emotion that all of us feel at his murder, and use it for your own parochial ends. Like, he stood for this, you know? And I think the reason that Charlie was able to bridge the gap, particularly in foreign policy, is because he had, for example, genuine affection for Israel, which he expressed to me in private many, many times. Like, I love Israel. I don't think we should have another forever war, regime change war against Iran. I don't think it's helpful for people to jump in, particularly foreign heads of state, to say, this is what, you know, he lived for my cause or whatever. That's disgusting, actually. Don't do that.
God, this is Netanyahu and Tucker Carlson going at it. Brought to you by the Young Turks.
Recently, Vice President J.D. Vance hosted the Charlie Kirk Show. Obviously, this is following the murder of Charlie Kirk. And he brought on a number of guests, including Tucker Carlson. Now, Carlson took a dig at the Israeli government. Rightly so, if you ask me. People like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for attempting to exploit Charlie Kirk's murder for their own political means, for their own political messaging. As Carlson alluded to, Kirk was a longtime advocate of Israel. There's no question about that. But over the past few years, he did make a number of statements that were also critical of the Israeli government. So we're gonna get to those momentarily.
God. Dude. Why play Tucker Carlson's clips? Why not just play, like, I don't know. Every pundit should have to do an annual review of every single issue that they plan on talking about, where they clearly state their position and their reasons for thinking that. Just so that we don't have to do this back and forth, like, what did they really believe? It's like getting clicks and views off hashing that out. Like, god damn, let the man rest.
Now, let's just talk about Benjamin Netanyahu's response to Charlie Kirk's murder. So we'll note that at the time of these comments, we did not know who Kirk's killer was at all. No actual suspect was in custody. We have no idea who this person is, what their motivations are. You need to know that context so you can understand just how patently absurd Netanyahu is in the statements he makes in the video you're about to watch.
He wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization. A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel. And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. The people on the on the extremes, the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and their union with the ultra-progressives, they often speak about human rights. They speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies, whether it's President Trump.
Isn't Fuentes also like
who's been almost assassinated twice, or they try to kill me here too, but they got Charlie Kirk, and it's just
okay. Netanyahu insinuating it's the same they is wild,
heartbreaking.
I really do have to hand it to Israeli extremists, because they really do effortlessly make everything, literally everything, about themselves. That man is so utterly evil, and for him to talk about extremism when he is the leader of a country that has a government that is carrying out the mass slaughter and mass displacement of millions of people is so rich. It really is. Okay. To take something that had just happened, a murder that shocked the nation, a violent event that could make the political situation completely devolve in this country. At that moment, I remember thinking this is going to lead to maybe riots, additional political violence, people might get hurt. That's what I'm concerned about as an American. Netanyahu, what he's concerned about is exploiting the murder of Charlie Kirk for his own political means.
Okay, just to be clear, like half the world is doing that right now. Not excusing it. I've just okay, look, I'm not that old, all right? I haven't seen too many political figures die in my time, but I feel like everything I have seen, whenever someone of importance dies, especially around politics, there's like a couple weeks, if not a month's worth of arguing over what they stood for, what they wanted, and what they meant to each individual person. So I say you should just have an hour to lay it all out on every fucking position so that there's no ambiguity.
He's disgusting. I'm not the only one who thinks so. I might not agree with Candace Owens on a whole host of political issues.
Oh my god. Dude, Anna going to the right and saying, well, Candace fucking Owens makes some good points. Oh, wow. This is where we're at now? Cool.
Issues, but I certainly agree with her when she's criticizing the Israeli government. And she took issue with Netanyahu's comments, especially as someone who was a close friend of Charlie Kirk's. Take a look.
First and foremost, that letter he is holding up, he is severely misrepresenting. Those sentences are real, but I am calling upon Bibi Netanyahu, the dear friend to Charlie Kirk, to publish the letter's entire contents. Like, don't start with just 2 sentences. Publish the entire thing. You're holding it. I'm saying you're severely misrepresenting the contents, that in May, Charlie was concerned about Israel and their influence on American politics and how they were pushing things that he felt were in conflict with his beliefs, free speech here in America.
You know, and I also want to add to what Candace Owens is saying there, because Charlie Kirk was under a tremendous amount of pressure.
I mean, horseshoe theory is fucking real, and it's over Israel. Can we imagine the far left and the far right uniting more closely on a single issue?
Understand what the whole point of Turning Point USA is. Turning Point USA's entire point is to, or was to, help Donald Trump get elected, and in the future help their preferred Republican candidate get elected. Now, that is a difficult thing to do when there's this disconnect with the Republican Party, meaning the politicians, who bow their heads to Israel and everything Israel wants, who will, put on the yarmulke regardless of what their religion is, even if they're Christians, and go pray at the wall. But when you look at the Republican base, the up and comers, the young people, the very people who followed Charlie Kirk, went to Turning Point events, they don't support Israel. Because what they're doing is being streamed. The videos are everywhere. It turns out that most Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, don't like to see children get butchered. You know what Israel's carrying out right now.
Oh, thanks for reminding us.
Yes, Charlie Kirk was under a tremendous amount of pressure. Because honestly, his own political views don't even really matter in that context. He has a role to serve, and that role is to help Republican politicians get elected. But what happens when the Republican politicians are very much pro-Israel? What happens when your donors are pro-Israel? You don't want to upset the donors, but you also don't want to lose the Republican base. So let's get to some more details about this, because it is true. I mean, look, Charlie Kirk was very much supportive of Israel. Overall, there is just an abundance of evidence to prove that. But there were a few moments where he was critical of Israel. So let's take a look at the examples. I'll start with one of the first examples dating back all the way to October 12th of 2023, when he appeared on the Patrick Bet-David podcast.
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say, stand down? This is the closest thing to the Holocaust that any of us have lived through. But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard right government has a mandate. I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep. I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay?
That was pretty candid. So, I mean, I remember seeing that interview at the time that it aired, and I was pretty surprised by it, because he was totally accurate about what the intentions of the Israeli government happened to be. So I want to be clear, okay? Again, there are all sorts of conspiracy theories out there about how Israel's actually the assassin. No evidence of that. What I'm taking issue with is government officials from Israel, people like Benjamin Netanyahu, exploiting Charlie Kirk's death to make it seem as though his support for Israel was unmitigated.
What did they have to say about TYT Kirk Memorial? I wonder. Just curious. Oh, they don't have anything on it. Okay, well that also tracks.
No, using it to essentially push his political message in support of Israel. I just find it so grotesque, so disgusting. But nonetheless, I've got some more to share with you. So before Trump's strikes on Iran, the strikes on Iran's nuclear site specifically, Charlie Kirk fervently advocated against regime change in Iran. He did not think it was a good idea for the United States to get caught up in that regime change war. Here's one example.
Did you know that we only have a problem in Iran at the scale and the magnitude that we currently have because we involved ourselves in regime change? America has a long history of regime change with Iran. The moral here is that we should not invade Iran and we should not support regime change. Sometimes you get something way worse. Like Iraq, you get ISIS. Libya, you get civil war.
Yes, correct. And that wasn't the first time, that wasn't the only time, I should say, where you can see Charlie Kirk pushing back against the notion that we should get embroiled in a war.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big delineator between the current MAGA movement and neocons is like interventionism versus hyper-isolationism. Or not even like super isolationist, just like autocracy.
War in Iran on behalf of Israel. Now, in July, Kirk hosted a number of young conservatives to discuss Israel and AIPAC, the Israel lobby. And here's a quick snippet of how that conversation went down.
So you're ethnically Jewish.
Ethnically Jewish, yes.
And you have concerns about AIPAC.
Yes, I do.
I'm told that by some people that if I criticize AIPAC, I'm anti-Semitic.
I think it's ridiculous, yeah. I feel like it's great to have a concern for your country.
Do you think that that AIPAC represents, again, I'm not saying I believe this, but I think this is what you're saying, that it represents a kind of cutting in line of prioritization away from the American people?
Yes.
Would you guys say that's a fair summary? 100%. Meaning that, like, okay, we vote, we're citizens, but a separate group gets higher priority because of whatever reasons.
So guys, first of all, I love that he hosted that conversation. I actually hadn't seen that before. He's providing a platform for American Jews to voice their personal opinion about the impact of the Israel lobby on American politics. That's incredible, and that's a good thing.
Where does AIPAC rank?
So as much as I disagreed with Charlie's politics, as much as we debated one another, sometimes, aggressively so, I really appreciated the fact that, look, I mean, he's not being disrespectful to these people, right? Regardless of what he believes, he's providing a platform. And there are so many young Americans who follow Turning Point USA who were exposed to that point of view because Charlie hosted that type of conversation. So, last month, Kirk and—
Wait, it's $3 million total? Seriously? That's it? What? Oh, fuck did he— what? Okay, top contributor AIPAC. Oh, BlackRock, nice. Wait, when it's individual, what does this like mean? When Jesus Christ. So it's people within AIPAC. I don't know how any of this PAC shit works. That, like, AIPAC does their max donation, and then individuals within AIPAC also do, like, individual donations. How does that? Can anyone give me the Spark Notes on how this works?
And Megyn Kelly griped about supporters of Israel who demand complete and total fealty to the Israeli government. Now, I want to note before we show this video, if you only take this clip that we're about to show you, you would think the entire conversation was about the pressure from Israel supporters that they're getting frustrated with. But if you listen to the entirety of that episode, there's tons of pro-Israel commentary. I believe the regurgitation of pro-Israel talking points. So I want to give you that full context before we play the clip. But with that in mind, let's take a look.
The behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. I am learning difficult Hebrew and writing a book on the
okay, so I was right. So there's individuals associated with it versus the actual pack itself. So, okay. I got you. Okay. So
Shabbat. I honor the Shabbat, literally the Jewish Sabbath. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us, it's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right?
These are stakeholders, these are leaders, these are potentially donors to Turning Point USA. And the donors don't like the criticism of the Israeli government or the way they're prosecuting. I mean, are we really going to call it a war when you have multiple organizations, including a UN group calling it a genocide? A group of genocide scholars calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide. It's a genocide. And there were a few occasions in which Charlie Kirk was willing to push back. Donors don't like it, but young Republican voters who don't support Israel
what does never back down
like it. So you see what kind of position Charlie Kirk is in, right? That tug of war that he's experiencing as the leader of this organization, Turning Point USA. Now, the day before he was killed, this is on September 9th, Kirk hosted Ben Shapiro on his show. This is getting a lot of attention. After we watch it, I'm gonna give you more context of why this exchange was happening. I think that context is important. So while Kirk largely refrained from commenting on Israel, he played devil's advocate. So let's take a look at that.
So we've seen news this morning that quite honestly I'm a little confused by, and I was hoping you could navigate it and help us understand, which is that Israel bombed Qatar, which houses a lot of Hamas officials. What happened here? And if I were to introduce just the skeptical question, will this potentially endanger America's own interests in the Middle East? So please, Ben, help me better understand the situation. A claim I receive often, and we're starting our campus tour tomorrow, is that Israel is committing genocide. How do you respond to that, Ben? Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be? And how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
So I went back and watched that episode with Ben Shapiro, and the way that
so we don't even know what direction that conversation went. Like, okay, I mean, maybe it went the way that they're kind of implying that it went, but fucking knows.
Read it, and I could be wrong, was that it was an effort to try to quell the rage, the disagreement, the anger toward Israel that's been growing among young conservative men, young conservative voters, because they have a conscience and they see what's happening in Gaza and they have a problem with it, to their credit. So bringing Ben Shapiro on, you have Charlie Kirk playing devil's advocate in order to allow for a staunch Israel support.
Let your patriotic values guide how you invest your money and save for your future. What happened here? And if I were hoping you could navigate it and help us. News this morning that quite honestly I'm a little confused by, and I was hoping you could navigate it and help us understand, which is that Israel bombed Qatar, which houses a lot of Hamas officials. What happened here? And if I were to introduce just the skeptical question, will this potentially endanger? The claim I receive often, and we're starting our campus tour tomorrow, is that Israel is committing genocide.
Let's see if Anna's portraying
How do you
this
respond
fairly.
to that, Ben?
There's literally no definition of genocide by which Israel is committing a genocide. Typically, a genocide involves the targeted killing of the vast majority of the population, or at least an attempt to do so.
Again, this isn't an endorsement or a refutation of these points. I just want to see what they say so we can see if Anna's doing anything fairly.
There has never been a genocide attempted in world history in which the food that was being shipped in was more than the daily caloric intake of the average American into the areas where you're supposedly attempting to genocide the population. The total population loss in the Gaza Strip thus far has been 3%. During the Holocaust, just to take a reference, it was 50%. During Rwanda, it was significantly higher than 3%. You don't issue leaflet warnings to people. You don't go house to house in a genocide in an attempt to reduce civilian casualties. I understand that people use genocide at this point. It's just a mean thing I don't like. And I get that. I understand. Nobody likes war. Nobody wants war. Certainly not the Israelis who are not at war on October 6th. The fact is that every Israeli family has to send their 18-year-old son or daughter off to the military with the possibility that they're going to get blown up in Gaza. That is not something that any Israeli wants, right, left, or center. The real question is whether the accusations are accurate. They certainly are not, again, by any stretch of the imagination.
Ben Shapiro, author of Lions and Scavengers. We're going to get to that in a second. I have one or two other questions on Israel. I think it's very important for our audience to hear this, though, because there is an incessant campaign. And one thing a friend sent to me, interestingly, which is, okay, Charlie, we push back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border. So like, maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
So ethnic cleansing, the idea, presumably, that population movement is equivalent to ethnic cleansing. I think ethnic cleansing is a term that's been fairly recently coined to describe population movement during war.
It seems like he's pretty ambiguous on it. Or, I mean, I don't know. His response was, if I'm hearing it correctly, was, yeah, I mean, the media is portraying Israel as negatively, and I am starting to ask a lot more questions about the media, so is implying that they're unfair in their coverage. I don't know, I'll just let it ride for a bit longer.
And the reality is that's been ongoing for literally all of human history. The idea that Israel is, quote unquote, forcing people out of the Gaza Strip, that is not the stated policy of the Israeli government. The idea is if people want to leave, they can, but they're not being forced to leave. Again, moving people out of heavily urbanized areas that are honeycombed with terrorist booby traps pretty much everywhere is not the same thing as, quote unquote, ethnic cleansing. And I think that ethnic cleansing is very often used as sort of a softer form of the genocide attack. The idea being that Israel is trying to kill everyone, which of course is not true. As far as your earlier question about what we believe from the media, one of the things that I find kind of astonishing in some of the folks on the right who are highly critical of Israel is actually the lack of the lack of skepticism when it comes to legacy media. Legacy media are radically anti-Israel overall. The New York Times can certainly not be accused of being a pro-Israel outlet. It'd be very difficult to make the accusation that the Associated Press, which has worked hand in glove with Hamas for years, or Reuters, that these are wildly pro-Israel outlets, and yet when it comes to the reporting, it seems to be sort of the opposite.
Ben,
so the perception of the legacy media is like owned by the Jews.
I was going to say, Ben, come on. You Jews own the media, Ben. So, I mean, come on. As you can tell by all the wonderful headlines you guys get.
Well, I mean, dude, the accusation that we own the media has not prevented, the Daily Wire from employing people who radically disagree with me on all of these matters. I mean, I don't agree with Matt Walsh on foreign policy. Matt, obviously, is a major host over at Daily Wire, and that's just my shop, and I'm overtly pro-Israel. Right? I mean, I'm not making any bones about this. I'm a Jew, and I'm a Zionist. I'm not going to pretend that to say otherwise would be absolutely silly. To suggest that some sort of atheistic Jewish person by birth who does not care about Judaism or Israel owning the New York Times means the New York Times is pro-Israel is to ignore literally every bit of coverage they have ever done for my entire lifetime.
We're running out of time here, but just last question on this, Ben. I know this might be a tougher question, but Bibi said, quote, I didn't like how he said this, I'll be honest. You can't be MAGA if you're anti-Israel. I don't like it for a couple of reasons. How did you analyze that statement from Bibi?
I mean, I think that there is the ungenerous way of interpreting that and then the generous way of interpreting that. So the ungenerous way is to suggest that you have to hold a particular position on every Israeli governmental activity in order to be MAGA, which of course is not true. I mean, you can disagree from the right or from the left with Bibi's policies, and you can still be plenty MAGA. I think the idea that Bibi is putting out there is that if you are taking Hamas's side against Israel in a conflict, it is very difficult to align that with the stated positions of the Trump administration or what President Trump himself is doing right now. And that much I certainly agree.
You cannot look. I think you can have disagreements on Israel and still be MAGA. Obviously, you should be America first. But if you're pro-Hamas, you're something darker, and we shouldn't put up with that. Ben, tell us about your important new book.
So the basic idea in Lions and Scavengers is that inside every human heart, and this goes back to the book of Genesis, that there really is the dutiful part of you that wants to engage in what God made for you, this incredible like rationalistic world in which you can mostly understand what's going on.
I don't know. I could be misinterpreting. It doesn't seem like there's a strong opinion on it. It seems like definitely towards Israel a lot more. It's not an overt opinion, stated at least, but the point we were going for here is Anna portraying this fairly, and I'm gonna go with no.
Going on, and you have a duty to do the moral thing. You get up every morning, you try to build something, you try to be innovative and risk-taking, you try to defend your civilization, you try to build the social fabric, and then tries to, and you see, I'm not leaders in the group, except that both, I mean, I think that what we lack, and I think we're starting to
What would you say is the missing component for those of us in the West to stand up against these forces? What would you say we're doing well and that we need to do more of?
I mean, I think that what we lack, and I think we're starting to see a restoration of it, is the courage to actually stand up on our hind legs and say no. I think that good people tend to be introspective. We tend to think, okay, what did I do wrong? How do I fix that? We tend to apologize when you do something wrong. Bad people tend to take an apology and then grind your face into the dust over it because they're not engaged.
I mean, yeah, it's just discrediting anti-Israel views, I guess. So, all right, are we gonna have this fucking live stream? Oh my god, look at that chat. Why doesn't mine look like that? The fuck, guys? Where's the DYT?
Reporter like Ben Shapiro to, perpetuate the pro-Israel propaganda. I don't think that it's effective, but that's what I read that whole exchange as. And I think people are kind of reading Ben Shapiro on, you have Charlie Kirk playing devil's advocate in order to allow for a staunch Israel supporter like Ben Shapiro to, perpetuate the pro-Israel propaganda.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think that it's effective, but that's what I read that whole exchange as. And I think people are kind of reading too much into that. But with that in mind, let's move on to Bill Ackman, because he's part of this story as well. Yesterday, Tucker Carlson stated that Kirk faced enormous pressure from Turning Point USA's own donors to support a regime change war in Iran. And I believe that to be true. Here's the clip of Tucker.
It did worry me because I think your description is perfect. He was one of the very few who took that message and stood by it. I mean, right to the very end. This cannot get bigger. We don't want another regime change war. But man, some of the people who send money to Turning Point, his donors, were very tough on him. So tough on him that I could feel it. I talked to him a lot in the last few months, and he was under enormous pressure. He never bent. He never became bitter.
He kept his integrity to the very end.
To the very end. And I just think it's important to say that because it's true.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that concern was mirrored by Candace Owens herself. So on a similar note, Owens and Bill Ackman are now essentially scrapping online, dueling, if you will, over whether or not Ackman threatened Turning Point USA because of the fact that Charlie Kirk, on a few occasions, was critical of Israel. Now, Owens is alleging that Ackman wanted to force Kirk to regurgitate Israeli government propaganda. And here's more of her argument.
I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel.
Bibi Netanyahu in that phone call, what took place was a couple of weeks ago before Charlie lost his life. Charlie was in the Hamptons and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman. Because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. Bill Ackman was very upset and threats were made. That is what I am told. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say. And just like Charlie was being invited to Israel, I was invited somewhere else. And when this arrived to me, it felt like a threat. I gotta tell you that. It felt like a threat, not like, hey, come here and we can educate you because you're my friend. More like, this is your last chance. And I know that Charlie was offered a ton of money in this moment. And I know for a fact that Charlie denied that funding. That Charlie denied, and what Bibi didn't include there, he declined to go to Israel.
Okay, so just keep in mind that literally,
It doesn't seem like TV USA had a big, Jewish funding base, no?
Just one day after that meeting, Kirk made his comments about the pressure he's facing and the criticism he's getting on Megyn Kelly's show. So the timeline makes sense. Everything adds up here. And I'm also inclined to believe Candace Owens, to be honest with you, because I have personally seen the wrath of pro-Israel figures in this country threaten you. And if they see that they can't really do much about your employment, they'll go after your family members. They'll try to ruin your life. That's currently happening to my husband right now, who's not a political figure at all, has never even uttered a word about Israel or what's happening with the genocide in Gaza. But since these people can't touch me, they're going after my husband and attempting to get him fired from a job that he loves.
Leave it alone.
That's who these people are. They're despicable, despicable. Because even if you have a family member who looks inside, thinks about their values, their morality, and obviously has a problem with innocent people getting slaughtered in Gaza, apparently you can't be against genocide if it's Israel carrying it out.
Fucking hell.
They'll come for you and they'll try to ruin your life. Despicable people. But let's get back to Ackman. According to Ackman, he and Charlie Kirk got in touch in May of this year. He's denying everything, okay? Kirk told Ackman that conservatives, in particular young conservatives, were getting tired of defending Israel and that this was very concerning to him. Now, over the course of several calls and meetings, Kirk and Ackman discussed a plan to mobilize a group of Turning Point ambassadors who could go and debate issues like Israel on college campuses, much like Kirk was doing. Ackman asked Kirk how he could learn more about why conservatives are drifting away from Israel. I don't know, it could be the butchering of children that we see endless images and videos of online. Are you?
Oh, I see, fuck. He was asked questions on how to build their movement and why people were moving. Oh, right, yes, that's why there's... Oh, hold on. I think we might be getting the autism thing. Trump's autism announcement. Ah, fuck. Okay. Oh, shit. That's good. Yeah, I'm being a bit of a lib shitter, but just seeing a YouTube video titled Trump's autism announcement, it's pretty... actually, I'll send that in the Discord, because I think that's pretty funny. Fuck me. That? Oh. Stint? Is that what it's called? Yams, IAMs? Yeah. I'm being not gone? What? Okay, nothing's fucking happening. Back to slop.
Stupid? Aren't billionaires supposed to be smart? Like, what an idiot. These people have no humanity. Like, it's just soulless, absolutely soulless. Kirk suggested that they could convene a group of conservative influencers to discuss the matter. So that idea eventually became the Hamptons meeting, as they're calling it. And Owens did mention it. About 35 influencers did attend, and Ackman said at no point did he threaten, blackmail, or even offer money to Charlie Kirk. Now, Ackman also claimed that in the weeks after the meeting, he and Kirk maintained a cordial relationship, discussing a number of issues, not all of them related to Israel. So what happened according to Kirk's producer? It's important to hear from Andrew Colvett. That's the executive producer for the Charlie Kirk Show, who also weighed in on this matter, saying, I have been asked about the Bill Ackman event more than a few times.
I have no idea.
So I asked our staff who were traveling with Charlie to find out what's true and what's not. His team was with him 100% of the time when he wasn't in his hotel room. Here's what they told me. Bill never yelled at Charlie, never pressed him on Bibi, never gave him a list of Charlie's offenses against Israel. There was concern raised about having Tucker at SAS. So that was the Turning Point conference that they had, where Tucker Carlson talked about how Jeffrey Epstein very likely was an asset for Mossad in order to gather damning and embarrassing intel on powerful people to blackmail them. Turns out that Ackman didn't like that speech. I rather enjoyed it, but let's get back to the tweet. Charlie's reply was, honestly, people telling me not to have Tucker makes me want to have Tucker. Good for him. And I'm going to lock him in for AmFest too. Charlie personally told me he had a very cordial relationship with Bill and the event was productive. Those are the facts. So in reality, Charlie Kirk's views of Israel were a little more complicated than Benjamin Netanyahu and the various right-wing genocidal freaks in that government have been regurgitating in the media since Charlie Kirk's murder. And to use that murder for your own political messaging, your own political means is rather disgusting. To take everything in the news and somehow effortlessly turn it around and make it about Israel is particularly disgusting. We're talking about a country that has bribed almost every politician in this country so they'll bow their heads to the government even as they're committing genocide in the Gaza Strip, the annexation of Palestinian land in the West Bank. They're gonna steal the Gaza Strip too, of course. The annexation of land from Syria.
What? Dittoing is not a word?
They share faulty, deceptive intel with the United States in order to drag us into fighting their wars as we did in Iraq. That's what Israel is. And I'm happy that there are examples of Charlie Kirk criticizing Israel on the record. So for anyone who's been fooled by Benjamin Netanyahu's lies in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's murder, these are the real facts.
Charlie didn't hate Jews. He loved Jews. He had tons of friends who were Jews. He loved the state of Israel. He loved going there. He did not like Bibi.
What's the consensus on I have friends who are X, Y, and Z, so I must not be against them. Is that fair play?
Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times.
Well, Tucker Carlson's warpath against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is continuing, and he is defending Charlie Kirk and essentially excoriating Benjamin Netanyahu for exploiting Kirk's death for his own political means, his own political messaging. And I'm really glad he's doing it because I found it particularly strange. It really turned me off, and it was definitely in poor taste. And so what's really going on here?
10 minutes late,
now, look,
man.
before we get to...
I want to hear Trump announce autism. new disease just dropped. Come on. I'm so curious. Should we pull up the paper before they... Yeah, let's do some actual journalism here on Twitch. I asked my good... Oh, wow, just in time. Maybe. All right. Pay attention. Fuck, I wish I should have prepped some jokes for this. Can I... Hello? Can I go to this link? these not open as fucking links? Whatever. I get that. Okay. Mount Sinai paper. Paper, autism. Acetaminophen. Oh, false alarm again, I guess.
I think we had a great tribute to a great man, a great, wonderful guy. So I hope you liked it. You know, Doug, if you have any energy questions, we're ready.
At the end of the ceremony, Mr. President, you and Erica shared a moment. If you don't mind me asking, what words did you have for her?
I've gotten to know her over the years. She's great. You know, Charlie always used to say she's very smart. He would always say that. You don't necessarily say that about a lot of people, but he always felt she was. And she's got a good heart, and you know, she's got a shot at making it even more special if you think about it. She's going to do good. I think she's going to do a good job. That's a hard thing to do. You know, it's one thing to make a speech, but with that, for her to make that speech, because they had a really good relationship.
Mr. President, I'm with Turning Point USA, and we just want to say thank you for being there. Thank you for speaking, and we offer our deepest condolences because I know Charlie was a friend of yours.
Well, that gentleman right there was pointing at you, and I like his question. So that means he thought you would, or make a statement just like you. Are you married?
Yes.
Congratulations. When did the ceremony take place?
I was just wondering.
I want my wedding ordained by God.
I was just wondering because there are a number of spots in and around the White House that are named after specific people. I was wondering if you would be considering naming something after Charlie's honor.
Okay. Again, this is like weaponized empathy, and not in the way the right uses it, or the right likes to say that Democrats use it to, like, bring in immigrants. Like, your natural inclination is to give people space when they're grieving, and to kind of let things slide, but that's being weaponized. Like, that memorial service, like, let's be fucking real, that was insane. The, like, honoring him and having him permanently in the congressional record, that's probably a bit far. Naming a part of the White House after him is crazy. Like, wasn't politician, not a governor, not an executive branch. Like, let's be real. Like, we can honor his life and all that, but, like, come on. Doesn't have to go this far. And I don't appreciate, like, his passing being used to, like, this. Yeah. It feels bad. It feels bad to criticize, but it also, I think, feels worse for them to be doing this shit.
Yeah, there are different little areas. Yeah, I like that idea. But we're giving them, I think, even more importantly, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest division. It's, I guess they say, you know, if you think Congressional Medal of Honor is for military, and this is for the civilians, so that's a great tribute to him. Great guy.
Details around that upcoming event that you can share with us? Any further details about that event?
I think the event was just a flawless event. It was beautiful. I thought the last song was incredible, the way it was as we were leaving.
Great.
In fact, I think I said, who is singing that song? And I think what I'll do is I'll grab it and I'll use it at rallies. We have rallies to get people elected, and I'll use it at some of the rallies. Wasn't that beautiful? That was the best rendition I've ever heard.
Dude, we're getting more and more into this, because at least in the beginning of the admin, they tried to kind of make things believable. But now it's, everything's the best, everyone else is the worst, everything's great. Even this old guy singing an old song, he's singing it better now. Like, come on.
What
can you and your staff do to make sure that over the next 3 years that you carry forth the vision and the faith of Charlie in a way that honors him? What can you guys do over the next 3 years?
I think it's going to be automatic, actually. And I think Turning Point is going to be a very big factor. I mean, you see the people. Now, the press reported 200,000 because they're, different areas, different stadiums and everything. There's a lot of people. That's an NFL stadium. I think it's going to be automatic. I really do. I think it's automatic. They're great people. He had a good staff, and they're great people.
Mr. President, everyone...
How did your husband do with that question? I thought quite good.
Mr. President, everyone's saying that Charlie brought you and Elon back together. Is that true?
Well, Elon came over and said hello. No, it's nothing to do with that. I thought it was nice. He came over, we had a little conversation. We had a very good relationship, but it was nice that he came over. Dana White was there, the great Dana White. The big question is having the UFC fight as the... I know you won't accept tickets because you're with the...
Okay, so this is the one that is, actually good, I think. The Sweden study.
Fake news, you're not allowed to accept tickets, but we're going to have a UFC fight right at the White House. And we're going to end up probably 6,000 people in front of the White House, and then on the ellipse we're going to have 80 or 90,000. It's going to be an unbelievable event, but a lot of people are talking about it.
For you, an energy question. You've been calling...
We have the right man. Go ahead.
I got the experts. You've been calling on Europe to stop buying Russian oil. The U.S. has imported $755 million worth of Russian uranium and plutonium so far just this year. That's up from the Biden administration last year, about $100 million. Can you ask Europe to cut off purchasing those kinds of products?
Doug, do you know anything about that?
Well, yeah, absolutely, but this goes back not only drill, baby, drill, but we've got to mine, baby, mine. We allowed ourselves to fall under dependence of both China and Russia for critical minerals. America buying uranium from Russia is not acceptable. And so we're working very hard, Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, myself, to make sure that we've got a plan so that the United States can get back into domestic uranium production as quickly as possible.
Sir, on Venezuela, you said that, let me quote your tweet here.
No boats in the water anymore.
Yes, well, you said...
Additional boats. You don't even find a fishing boat. You don't even find cruise liners anymore. There's nothing in the water near Venezuela. It's actually strange. You know what that means? That means there are no drugs coming in.
You said that the price they'll pay will be incalculable if they don't take people back. What does that mean?
Well, you're going to have to figure that out.
Mr. President,
That would
autism announcement tomorrow. Multiple news outlets are reporting that you plan to tie Tylenol to increase risk of autism. Can you confirm that?
Well, we're going to see tomorrow. We're going to do it tomorrow, but I think it's a very big factor. I think you'll see what it is tomorrow. We have various things, but you'll see what it is tomorrow. I think it's going to be a very important news conference, and we want things to take effect immediately. If there's a question, even if there's a question, you just do it, right? But great research has been done. When you think, if you think that, let's say 15 years ago, they had 1 in 10,000 were born with autism. And now it's, think of it, 1 in 12, 1 in 10. Boys, 1 in 10 or 12. Two different studies. Girls, it's 1 in 20. Can you imagine 1 in 20? And let's see, 22 years ago, it was 1 in 20,000. But it got down to 1 in 10,000 about 17 years ago, and now it's 1 in 12. Actually, boys are 1 in 12 and 1 in 10. I mean,
so this means this we're assuming is a low correlation. Okay, so these are all the super high correlation ones that have relatively low amounts. So maybe if you think there's a tiny relation. I'm not a doctor, but I've taken a bunch of stats classes. This doesn't seem high. Like a 5%, a 7 to 5% chance increase.
Imagine 1 in 10, and it was 1 in 20,000. So there's obviously something artificial that's really wrong.
Oh, okay. And when they isolated for siblings, it's none. Oh. Okay. Well, that's... Okay. Wait. So, okay, this is retarded.
And we think we know what that is.
Are you planning to announce any link between vaccines and autism?
Vaccines are very interesting. They can be great, but when you put the wrong stuff in them, they're not. And you know, children get these massive vaccines like you'd give to a horse. Like you'd give to a horse.
Okay, so now Trump's pushing vaccine disinfo. Awesome. Cool. Oh, it's just words. Sure, but this sows and reaffirms a doubt in the efficacy and safety of vaccines that will result in more deaths and more diseases spreading. Like, that sentence right there very well could be, like, 20 cases of measles. Or a dead kid. Like, this matters, and it's got to be taken very carefully.
And I've said for a long time, I mean, this is no secret, spread them out over 5 years. Get 5 shots, small ones. Did you ever see what they give? They give, I mean, for a little baby to be injected with that much fluid, even beyond the actual ingredients.
Not a fucking dog.
Sometimes 80 different vaccines, and it's crazy. It's you know, that's a common sense thing too. It's like you're shooting up a horse. You have a little body, a little baby, and you're pumping this big thing. It's a horrible thing. So I've always felt that.
What?
We'll be having a big discussion tomorrow about autism.
Your son had a very welcoming message today, welcoming people to the Republican Party. Love of country, love of family, love of God. So I ask you, what did the Democrats stand for at this point?
Oh my!
I think chaos, confusion, anger. They're losers. They don't even want to extend the opening. We have a very successful country. If we gave them everything they wanted, they're deranged. If we gave them everything they wanted, they wouldn't extend, in my opinion. You know, they say, oh, they want to meet with me. It's nonsense, but I'll meet with them. But no, they're angry, and
they have stipulations on health care.
And they're doing worse now than they were during the election. So, you know, they're doing very badly. I don't think, actually, I think they stand for chaos. They stand for nothing.
Mr. President, I'm with the Daily Wire, and we've been doing a lot of investigating of these transgender shooters. We reported on Friday that the Kavanaugh attempted assassin actually identifies as transgender. We just wanted to get your reaction to that and see if you had heard.
Wow, it's too bad.
Yeah, we actually, we looked into it, and fucking Robert E. Lee was actually trans. Please don't tell me.
It's a very sad thing going on with that. And
not Robert E. Lee.
I'll have to take a look at it. We have to protect our Supreme Court judges and justices, and Justice Kavanaugh's a great guy. I mean, it's horrible. He's been through a lot with this. All of them have, in a way. They didn't give him the proper protection, and we are giving. You saw what?
I want to know if someone's written
numerous bills, but we just passed another one. We have to protect the Supreme Court. We have to.
And on that same note, there's been so many different shooters who either Charlie's killer lives with a guy who's transgender, the Annunciation shooter was transgender, the Covenant shooter was transgender. Should the FBI be investigating transgender extremism?
You know, we're looking at that, and it seems like, is that just a, what's the reason? Yeah,
okay,
there seems to be something, but we're looking at it very strongly. Something seems to be going on, but you can't make that statement yet. We're looking at it very closely.
Mr. President, back in 2020, 2021, you were banned from Twitter, Facebook, basically every single platform on God's green earth, sir. And now, many people on the left want to throw out cries about First Amendment claims after Jimmy Kimmel's show was canceled. Do you find it hypocritical, sir, after what they did to you?
I did his show before I ran for...
John Wilkes Booth had a new... Oh. Okay, sorry. They're saying that Lincoln would get.
Politics, I did this show many times, and he was never one of the top people. Do you remember during the Academy Awards when he read my truth just before giving out the Best Picture award?
Man,
I said, and what he read was that he's the worst.
Is it distasteful to say that the real autism? No, actually, no. Never mind. Disregard last.
Host in the history of the Academy Awards. Look, Jimmy Kimmel suffers from two things. First of all, he said a terrible thing about Charlie, but he also suffers from the fact that he's got no talent and he's got no ratings. A deadly combination. That's deadly, right?
When's the National Guard going to be arriving in Memphis? He said they'd be coming soon.
Yeah, very soon, and we're going to straighten that up, just like we straightened out Washington. And we're not letting Washington go, by the way. We're not letting. If we didn't go there, Washington right now would be leading the nation in crime. I mean, D.C. leading the nation in crime. And
so we're not letting them go. That only stands to reason that he's going to keep the National Guard there, like in force permanently.
We have it down. I mean, it is a beautiful thing. And every person I meet is saying, thank you, sir. They don't care whether it's a National Guard. They don't care what it is. They're not being raped, mugged, shot. Washington, D.C. is now a very safe city. And you know what? I drove through it yesterday. You probably saw. Everything was nice. The grass was... I thought I'd replace the grass. Much of it doesn't have to be replaced. It looks so beautiful. It was so well maintained. And that's by us.
We're getting ready to go to the UN this week, where there's going to be a major push for a two-state solution. Obviously, the U.S. and Israel have not signed on to that. Is there still a possibility in your mind that there could be a diplomatic solution to this conflict?
So I'd like to see a diplomatic solution. There's a lot of anger and a lot of hatred, you know that. And there has been for a lot of years. This is not something new, but hopefully we'll get something done. We're studying Gaza and dealing with Gaza very strongly. That's a real mess.
The investigation is still ongoing into Charlie Kirk's killer and whether he had ties to groups, but do you have a sense now of whether he...
Look, they've seen a lot for an investigation that's ongoing. I think they've done an incredible job.
Have they found...
The shells, so many different things. I mean, what's to say?
Have you found direct links to...
You mean about other people?
And does that affect your decision about how to proceed in terms of pursuing these?
I think, as far as I'm concerned, but they're going to do a final report. Whether other people involved is what you're asking. It would look to me like not. Now, he did have a friend, but I don't... The friend seemed to be a little bit surprised.
Mr. President, in regards to Pam Bondi, who should...
Okay, that's like the first good thing he said. Not viciously attacking the person they were dating being trans. At least not in this one. Now, future and past, yeah, but...
she focus on as far as bringing accountability?
Everybody, really. It's a big office. She's doing a good job. But focus on everybody. There are a lot of crooked people that were here before me. We had people that almost destroyed our country. If I didn't win this election, our country would be destroyed. We wouldn't have a country right now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
How late are these motherfuckers going to be? Damn, 17,000. It's hot. The hottest live stream. Jesus. Okay. Well, now what do we do in the fucking meantime? Half an hour late. Huh? I heard a noise. I feel like that agenda-free TV guy. Hey, I mean, look, he is true to what he says. I guess we could go back to TYT for a sec.
Some of the other conservatives who are pushing back against Netanyahu. Let's rewind a little bit and just remember what he said just one day after Kirk's assassination. So Netanyahu joined Fox News to discuss his relationship with Kirk, and here's what he had to say.
Say that we're just heartbroken. Myself, my wife, my family, my son actually, on his 2019 visit to Israel, had lunch with him and his wife, Erica. We're shattered first as human beings because a great human being has been taken from us. Was an extraordinary friend.
Okay, so he's talking about his close, cozy, friendly relationship with Charlie Kirk. And then on Monday, Vice President J.D. Vance hosted the Charlie Kirk show and featured a number of guests, including Tucker Carlson. And Carlson took some pretty obvious shots at Netanyahu, but he didn't name him. So take a look at what he had to say in response.
I think now is exactly the wrong time to appropriate the memory of someone and the emotion that comes with that, the really intense emotion that all of us feel at his murder, and use it for your own parochial ends. Like, he stood for this, you know? And I think the reason that Charlie was able to bridge the gap, particularly in foreign policy, is because he had, for example, genuine affection for Israel, which he expressed to me in private many, many times. Like, I love Israel. I don't think we should have another forever war, regime change war against Iran. I don't think it's helpful for people to jump in, particularly foreign heads of state, to say, this is what, you know, he lived for my cause or whatever. That's disgusting, actually. Don't do that.
So clearly he's talking about Netanyahu there. And then Tucker Carlson has a special in honor of Charlie Kirk. Our very own Cenk Uygur was part of it, and we're going to discuss that in just a moment. But before Cenk came on, Tucker Carlson engaged in a monologue, and he didn't pull any punches. So here's what he had to say.
I was shocked and sickened by the reaction of the ghoulish and really repulsive reaction of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to Charlie's death. Basically made it all about him and all about his country, immediately trying to take the energy, the sadness, the grief that people felt over Charlie's murder and redirect it towards support for whatever project he's involved in. And by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu is not the same as the nation of Israel at all. Bibi is despised by many people in Israel, and if you know people who live there, you know that that's true. There are huge divisions within the Israeli government. I mean, there are certain parts of the intel world in Israel that do not support some things that Benjamin Netanyahu has done recently. So it's not the same as attacking Israel, attacking Bibi, but I don't think I've ever seen anything lower than his attempt to hijack Charlie's memory and use it for his own political ends, particularly because what he said was completely untrue.
Missing data exclusion and
what he said is completely untrue. So what does that mean? Does that mean that Charlie Kirk was actually against Israel? No, that's not what Tucker Carlson claimed at all. Instead, he talked specifically about what Charlie Kirk had said to him about his relationship with Netanyahu. So one more clip, and then I want to hear your thoughts, Cenk.
Charlie didn't hate Jews. He loved Jews. He had tons of friends who were Jews. He loved the state of Israel. He loved going there. He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening.
The researchers didn't try and guess the missing information. Instead, they created a special missing group. Studies, okay. Okay. Wait, so that's not... After removing participants who didn't meet our study's eligibility rules, we handled any remaining missing information by creating a separate unknown cat. Okay. So that's not a big deal.
In Gaza?
Doesn't seem like.
He was, above all, resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars for the benefit of his country, and that it was shameful.
Also, what percent of expecting mothers take Tylenol? Well, I gotta imagine it's most, right?
And embarrassing and bad for the United States, and he resented it. Didn't hate Netanyahu. He wasn't out there with a placard saying that, but he certainly expressed that to me and a lot of other people. And there's no question that Bibi's defenders on the internet will call me a liar or a kook, but that's a fact. And enough text messages exist that I think it can probably be verified in pretty short order.
Well, you know, Senator Ted Cruz, who is bought off by the Israel lobby, did call him a liar and a kook effectively. We'll get to that in just a minute. But Cenk, we know Charlie mostly as someone who defended Israel and everything Israel was up to, but there had been some serious examples in recent years where he was critical of some of what the Israeli government was up to. Certainly after October 7th, he went on the PBD podcast and kind of questioned whether the government allowed it to happen, whether there were stand down orders. And now we have some IDF testimony where they're claiming that they were told to stand down. What do you make of what Tucker Carlson is saying here?
Yeah, I don't find any of it surprising or controversial. Let's start with Netanyahu. He
the young Trumpers or something like that
did not like Netanyahu. Is that a controversial position? 99.8% of the world doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu. And in fact, I don't know a single person in America that likes Netanyahu. And that includes dozens of Jewish friends. I don't want to say hundreds, I think it might be hundreds, but of whatever the number is, I don't know a single Jewish American that says, oh yeah, Netanyahu's my guy. In fact, every Jewish American I know says, oh, goddamn Netanyahu, right? As we would say, as Turkish Americans about Erdogan, or a Russian American might say it about Putin, etc.
What about the Young Turks triumvirate, who is your namesake? Oh, fuck me, I got excited because someone coughed on this stream. Come on, man. Hurry the fuck up.
That's the most normal thing in the world. Is there an obligation to love the politicians of our country? Is that a new thing? Is Ted Cruz going to find that in the Bible? Like, oh, in the Bible, the Bible dictates that I must listen to Benjamin Netanyahu, not the money that AIPAC gave me. But the Bible says I have to bow down to Netanyahu. Is that a new standard? Do we all have to do that now? No, it's absurd. So any reasonable, thoughtful person would, of course, not like Benjamin Netanyahu, the butcher of Israel, right? Huh? And so there's a giant genocide, ethnic cleansing. Look,
obviously get the regardless of where you stand, the buzzword analysis is crazy.
So any reasonable, thoughtful person would, of course, not like Benjamin Netanyahu, the butcher of Israel, right? And so there's a giant genocide, ethnic cleansing. Look, obviously Charlie Kirk
maybe, but
he had a nuanced position for sure. Overall, did I agree with Charlie on Israel? No, I thought he defended Israel's actions way too much. Way too much. Not even close, right? But did he have those moments that you're talking about, especially 2 weeks before he died, where he started questioning, hey, what's going on here? Now, is that a thing that's just about Charlie Kirk? No. You've seen Megyn Kelly shift her opinion. Piers Morgan very famously shifted his position. And the list goes on and on. Because why? Because in the beginning, on October 8th, 9th, 10th, you might say, oh my God, of course Israel has a right to try to get Hamas, the terrible people who did October 7th. 2 years later, and they're starving children to death, you'd kind of have to be a monster not to change your position, or not to, at least for God's sake, question it. So, and the other thing that was happening, Anna, is
I forgot how fucking brain. Oh God, and it's that Tim Pool. I'm in hell. Or this guy. Oh. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it sounds like there's papers being shuffled around in the background here. Whoa. Okay, are we not doing anything? This dude. Do I just yap? Stare into the camera and yap for a sec? To be very clear, what they're going to announce is a release. This release here, of a collection of studies that they looked at without deference to sample size and data quality. Like, there's one like actual good gold standard study included within this bag of, was it like 42, 46? All right, the rest have significant, like orders of magnitude smaller sample sizes, and those are the ones that I'm predicting that RFK is going to cherry pick to draw some relation to acetaminophen and autism. In the best available information study in this grouping, which is 31,000 siblings from the same mother, one with acetaminophen, one without, they showed a negative correlation even, but within the confidence interval saying that there's a 95% chance it's between negative 9.4, which means, 9.4, which means negatively correlated, and 1.02, which means a very slight positive correlation. Well, these other ones have very small sample sizes. Yeah. It's bad science. Some of these other ones are self-reports. I mean, this one was 73,000 is interesting. Okay. Including mother children with available data on either prenatal or postnatal exposure and at least one outcome. So is this one already selecting for people that have a kid with autism or ADHD and then reverse asking them if they'd taken Tylenol? Okay, let's ask our good friend Gemini what this means, because I think they ranked this by... Just want to see if there's another big... listening to Trump. Got him. No, so what they're arguing is that acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, causes autism, and basically what they're citing is this collection of studies of very disparate testing methods, sample sizes, and whatnot, drawing a correlation, but they're ignoring the highest quality data, which compares siblings from the same mother and a sample size of 31,000 people, and one sibling, the mother was taking acetaminophen, the other was not, and they found a negative correlation, but within, like, more likely zero correlation, because it's just within the realm of error. Yeah, whatever. Margin of error, sorry. So it's RFK citing bad science to make mothers' lives worse. And I think this I just read. I haven't looked into more, but this I've been looking at all morning. Not taking Tylenol and not alleviating fever symptoms might have a stronger correlation with autism and other developmental defects than whatever they're gonna say is correlated here. Because if you look at some of these numbers, like, it could seem scary. Like, oh my god, a 1.21%, or sorry, 1.21, basically it's 21% correlated or whatever. That sounds fucking terrifying, and it's a very big sample size. But if you look at who they selected to include in the study, they found people with autism or ADHD, or mothers that had children with it, and then asked them if they'd taken Tylenol. So, at least that's what I'm pretty sure. This is going to hit Fox News today.
Hello, everyone.
Then by Kenview.
Thank you very much. So I've been waiting for this meeting for 20 years, actually. And it's not that everything's 100% understood or known, but
True.
I think we've made a lot of strides. Wish it was done a long time ago.
Idea. This is not financial.
Today, we're delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from.
That is not the heart of the problem here.
The word got out
I was a developer, and I had really strong feelings about autism and where it came from.
Of where we were,
I feel like the entire press conference is encapsulated
we understood a lot
by
more
that.
than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Don't take Tylenol.
And Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink.
Or expecting
Thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, very much.
Good job,
The
Trump.
meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's
just
1 in 31. But in some areas, it's much worse than that, if you can believe it. 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California, where they have for some reason, a more severe problem.
Yeah.
But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys. 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%.
Yeah, I mean,
instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful
is
for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation.
Stems, at least.
And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we got. We have to find out.
And we start
because when you go from 20,000
or like I feel like
to
some people have
10,000,
been fighting,
and then you go to 12, there's something artificial. They're taking something.
Being impotent as a party.
And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently.
No.
Is that a correct statement, by the way?
Why?
With the Amish, for example. The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
Fuck my Chungus country. I'm leaving.
Is that okay?
I'm out of here. Fuck this.
which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever.
Oh my God.
That you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you have to, if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period.
Oh, nice.
Take it over 5 times or 4 times.
Every time he does this fucking vax shit, like, every time he mentions it, that's probably another parent or another set of parents that say, yeah, I won't vaccinate my kids, or yeah, I'll do some other way of that. Like, and that will probably, like, that sentence probably leads to a couple cases of, like, measles, mumps, whatever the fuck.
But you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies, it's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad.
No, you prefer to wait till
it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff, you'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and all the 3 should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it 4 for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. The FDA will be updating the label of an existing drug to reflect potential benefits in reducing some autism symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. But this was mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected. But we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better. And in some cases, maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly for. I have so many friends with autistic children. It's a tough situation. Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism Data Science Initiatives. And to be honest with you, to me, that's the least important. It's not even a money thing at this point. There's so much money, but they have to do, and they have to move quickly. When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it.
Dude, he is.
And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you take instead? It's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely proven bad. I mean, they've been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven bad. So I'd like to ask Bobby to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. McCary, Dr. Oz, Dr. Fink, followed by two incredible mothers that have experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one. And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. And I want to say it right now. And, you know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it.
Fucking retard.
So I'd like to ask Bobby to come up and say a few words. I hope I didn't ruin his day, but that's the way I feel. I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common sense, too. And there's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up, and this group has worked so hard on it, but I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. To meet the President's challenge, I ordered HHS to launch an unprecedented all-agency effort to identify all causes of autism, including toxic and pharmaceutical exposures. At President Trump's urging, NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS are turning over every stone to identify the etiology of the autism epidemic and how patients and parents can prevent and reverse this alarming trend. We have broken down the traditional silos that have long separated these agencies, and we have fast-tracked research and guidance. Historically, NIH has focused almost solely on politically safe and entirely fruitless research about the genetic drivers of autism. And that would be like studying the genetic drivers of lung cancer without looking at cigarettes. And that's what NIH has been doing for 20 years. As a result, we don't have an answer to this critical question, despite the cataclysmic impact of the epidemic on our nation's children. We are now replacing the institutional culture of politicized science and corruption with evidence-based medicine.
Here now than it is
NIH research teams are currently testing multiple hypotheses with no area off limits. We promise transparency as we uncover the potential causes and treatments, and we will notify the public regularly of our progress. Today, we are announcing two important findings from our autism work that are vital for parents to know as they make these decisions. First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD.
What about heroin? How are those
autism.
outcomes?
Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. FDA also recognized that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancy, as other alternatives have well-documented adverse
What are the
effects.
downstream effects of this?
HHS wants, therefore, to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment in the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration and only when treatment is required.
So you have
Furthermore,
to buy it
thanks to also to the politicization of science, the safety of acetaminophen against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in young children has never been validated. Prudent medicine, therefore, suggests caution in acetaminophen use by young children, especially since strong evidence also has associated it with liver toxicity. Some studies have also found the use of acetaminophen in children can potentially prolong viral illnesses. FDA will drive new research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. In addition to a possible
clarification on what I said earlier on the study, it's not only mothers that had children with autism or ADHD, it's mothers who had their kids tested and had an answer yes or no. Can we figure out why that's bad? Yes. If you're having your child tested, that means you probably have a suspicion. So, of course, there's going to be a skew.
Acetaminophen connection to autism for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers. Our research has revealed that folate
Is this how they soft launch the pregnant woman database? Is that what we're doing
We have
here?
also identified an exciting therapy that may benefit large numbers of children who suffer from autism. Peer-reviewed literature has documented that up to 60% of folate-deficient children with ASD can have improved verbal communications if given leucovorin. I have instructed NIH, FDA, and CMS to help doctors treat children appropriately. Jay will help tell that story, which started with sound science, the kind that restores faith in government. This announcement also represents a historic collaboration between NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS. We expect this to be the first of many announcements over the coming years that deliver actionable information to parents on the underlying cause of autism and the potential paths for prevention and reversal.
Maybe.
Finally, autism is a complex disorder.
Actually, I think my parents had me tested, and I don't have it. Or if I do, they didn't tell me.
With multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. But some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades.
That is so
research
sick
on the potential link
to
between autism and
weaponize.
vaccines.
Oh my god. Using the believe all women thing to push your fucking crackpot podcast ass Joe Rogan dick sucking fucking crack science is evil.
Has been actively suppressed in the
that'll
past.
be a TikTok
It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find. We are researching this issue at all 3 agencies. Jay will discuss one of our research initiatives at NIH. This model of unleashing unbiased, depoliticize gold standard scientific research and academic freedom to deliver actionable information to prevent and reverse disease will be a model for the framework to deliver similar results for many other chronic conditions that plague
Trump's
Americans.
fucking sway.
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy, and thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
I'm proud to announce today that the NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative to turbocharge autism research, devoting an additional $50 million to the cause of studying autism. Nearly 250 research teams from across the country applied, sent in their applications, and were peer-reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies, with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to arrest and reverse the autism epidemic. Autism spectrum disorder encompasses a very wide range of symptoms, ranging from mild difficulties with social interactions to profoundly autistic children who experience severe disabilities in speech and behavior. Given this wide range of symptoms across the spectrum, it seems certain that there will be a wide range of biological contributors to explaining the cause. The great thing about the new NIH initiative on autism is that scientists will use rigorous advanced methods in causal inference, machine learning, organoids, and other fresh approaches to the problem. The sharp rise in the prevalence of autism deserves an urgent response by the scientific community. As Bobby said, the NIH has invested a lot of money to study autism over the years. But the research has not produced the answers that families and parents of autistic children deserve, and autistic children themselves deserve. For too long, it's been taboo to ask some questions for fear the scientific work might reveal a politically incorrect answer. Because of this restricted focus in scientific investigations, the answers for families have been similarly restricted, often pointing families to behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid or suggest non-modifiable genetic factors as the cause. But genetics alone can't explain such a sharp rise in autism prevalence over just a few decades. As
I hate these people.
In coming months and years, as NIH scientists learn more that can help autistic children and their families, we won't delay. Like scientists often like to do. I can say as a scientist myself, it's really tempting to delay.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
In the case of a problem like this, you have to move fast. But we will not delay before telling American people about what we find, and we will win the public trust with transparency and rigor. Already, our broadened focus on autism research has pointed to 2 items that will help families prevent and treat some cases of autism. I'll leave the good news on these 2 items to my close friends and colleagues, Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz. We've been working together closely on this problem for the past 6 months. And our
do you know the Amish people that don't screen for autism don't have autism? Wow. No, they didn't solve autism. They're fucking retarded. They're pointing it to Tylenol when the actual good study on it says, yeah, there's no link. And they're like, it's a scary fucking rise in autism. It's like, yeah, we've been paying more attention to it and diagnosing it better. Fucking fuck these people.
Cooperation represents an unprecedented collaboration with Secretary Kennedy's Department of Health and Human Services and with President Trump. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Marty McCary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, who will tell you about these announcements of practical help for families with autism.
Yeah, like no test.
Great, thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Mr. President, this is the start of a historic shift in medical culture. This administration is working
now I understand why people like
big
shoot their
questions
fucking TV
about why our nation's children
like
are getting
football
sick so
games.
fast. Too often, medicine is doing small little studies, giving us answers we already knew. But
The
we've gotta
entire
make a
country of
difference. He's
Sweden
given
is
us
a small
charge
little
to identify
study.
root causes, and we are not going to stop so that we can end the suffering we are watching. And if
Yeah.
you've seen a kid with autism, with severe autism, it's hard to watch. Kids get frustrated, they get angry, they can be crying because they want to speak and they can't speak. It's hard to watch, and it may be entirely preventable. For an epidemiologist, that child is an expanding
Entirely
statistic.
preventable.
But for
The
a
most
child,
extreme
it can be
study
brutal
said it was
to
like
have autism. Today, the FDA is taking action to update the label on acetaminophen and sending a letter to all U.S. doctors letting them know about the risks in pregnancy. We now have data we cannot ignore. There's a very large study, the Boston Birth Cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found quote-unquote consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association.
RFK looks like he's about to fucking
Sure, you'll
pop.
be able to find a study to the contrary. That's how science works. But to quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. We cannot wait any longer. And honestly, there's been this perfunctory, reactionary, mindless practice in medicine. I learned it in medical school and residency. Just treat all fevers, low-grade fevers, treat them with acetaminophen. Why? What are we doing? A study out of Hopkins actually showed that treating a fever can prolong the duration of illness in a young kid. Maybe that's because a fever is a body's natural way of ridding an infection. When my wife was
how do they think a fever gets
a few months
healed?
ago,
Doesn't your body
they
cook
pushed her
itself
to take
until the fever goes
acetaminophen
away?
for a low-grade
What the fuck do you
fever.
think happens to a baby?
She said no, and then they looked to me and I said, absolutely new. I'm also here to announce good news. Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be available to children with autism. You know, autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know we are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, 2/3 of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement. Mr. President, you told us to do what's medically right, to go bold.
Is this just exactly what fucking happened with the vaccine study in England all those years ago?
And not worry about the corporations and the lobbyists. So that's what we're here doing today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Marty. I think you all appreciate the passion in the president's voice. We've been hearing that since the inauguration. In fact, even before
the passion
the
in his
inauguration,
voice, his
the
last
president was upset
speech was,
about what he spoke to today. And so together with Secretary Kennedy, who's made it his life's work to address some of these challenges with autism, they challenged us. In fact, they were harsher than that. They wanted no silos to break down what the NIH would do, what the FDA would do, what CMS would do. They insisted that the physician leaders bust through the clutter because their agencies had the power if we didn't do what every other prior administration had done, which is to let people function within their siloed environments. Because of that, in historic fashion and a very accelerated manner, we have a response today to the autism crisis.
They're
It is the
announcing an
first of
autism
several
rate
chapters, but this is breaking news. You've heard some of it. The response to the autism crisis is going to continue to come to you under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, and the president wouldn't have it any other way, as you've heard. The FDA, based on NIH research, is approving prescription leucovorin for treatment of autistic children. Now, if you're following the script, there should be two questions that you have, two questions that should come to your mind. The first is, how will patients and parents get access to the treatment?
I think Tylenol,
I'll tell you
if I'm
how.
not, I could be completely wrong. Also, welcome to the stream. Tylenol is just what we call it, and I think you guys, I'm assuming you're English. I think it's the same thing. I could be wrong. If it's acetaminophen, it's acetaminophen.
Over half of American children are covered by Medicaid and CHIP, government health insurance. Over
Not
half.
anymore. Maybe. I don't know.
Therefore, because they're covered in Medicaid and CHIP, upon this label change by Marty, state Medicaid programs in partnership with CMS will cover prescription leucovorin around the country. It's yours, but you have to go to a doctor to get a prescription because they know your child, they know you, and they know the medication. States will also have tools to monitor its use and ensure appropriate utilization. That's important for a bunch of reasons because we want the right kids getting the right prescription medications. We believe private insurance companies will rapidly follow our lead if they have not already done so. And again, to make sure that this is safe and effective treatment, you need a physician to prescribe the medication because it's on prescription.
They're saying
Second
folic
big question.
acid cures it.
How are we going to collect clinical data to answer the big questions that the president is asking and the secretary insists that we offer? CMS is also issuing guidance to convene states and existing research networks to support NIH and FDA in their research efforts of prescription leucovorin, while also maintaining the privacy of all patients, all health information of our beneficiaries. Collecting real-world data, which is what many of you have been asking us to do in the community, is fast, it is life-saving, and we'll get answers based on what happens over the next few months with this approach. The aggressive approach, and it is aggressive, demanded by the president and by the secretary, have already identified risk factors and opened the door for the first FDA-recognized treatment pathway for autism. It is the first of its kind, and it wouldn't have happened without the leadership of the president and the secretary. The five-fold increased prevalence of autism over the past 25 years demands a rapid response. The average clinician, researcher, we spoke to many, thought it would take 5 years to get this data. Parents are unwilling to wait 5 years. The president is unwilling to wait 5 years for these results. So the president and the secretary are acting today with this tri-agency move. The administration's bold actions investing in groundbreaking research follow the science. They restore trust, which has been lacking, and they will change the trajectory for millions of American families. Mr. President, God bless you for being brave.
God.
So let me introduce Dr. Fink, who's acting administrator, and after Dr. Fink, we've got some wonderful women, Jackie and Amanda.
I don't know. What do you even fucking
I know
say
it's
to
gonna be
this?
tough,
It's
but
just
if you
so
can make some
patently
comments about this
fucking
historic
stupid.
day, God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to speak with all of you.
I'd rather eat Klaus Schwab's fucking bugs.
I'm here today to talk about what this announcement means
I thought it
for
was
the millions
Richard
of
Fink
moms
from
and
the
dads
chemtrails
who are faced
conspiracy.
with the choice of whether to take acetaminophen during pregnancy. It's hard to hear information that challenges the status quo. We are sharing this information not to confuse, but to empower parents to make the best choices when taking medications during pregnancy. We are all concerned about the rising rates of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are dedicated to radical transparency so that patients have the best, most up-to-date information. We are also sharing this information with our nation's doctors, and we encourage you, as always, to consult with your doctor to make the best decision for you.
To Europe. So
All too often, it's easy to think that medicines we buy without a prescription pose little to no risk for the mom or the baby. As you heard today, pregnant women who need high fever or pain reduction during pregnancy should take the lowest effective dose of acetaminophen for the shortest possible duration. Most women will not meet these indications during their pregnancies. I am encouraged by these developments today because it is another example of our commitment to the American people to leave no stone unturned in improving the health of our nation's
RFK
children.
probably genuinely believes it.
Next,
Trump
I'm going to turn it over
genuinely
to some
believes it.
incredible mothers who are going to
Oz,
share more
I
about
don't
their
know.
stories, and we're so grateful to have you here today.
Come on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and team, for all your work. This is an historic day, and I'm thankful to be here. I have a son who's 5 who is
And it sounds fucking mean to say, but like the vaccine shit, this shit comes from people having kids that have autism and them not wanting, being unable to accept the fact that it's just a thing that can happen. I have to find something to blame because it feels bad that it's just a thing that happens. It's a lot easier to point the finger at a scapegoat than just accept that something bad happened. It sucks.
profoundly autistic, and you've probably heard if you've met one autistic child, you've met one autistic child.
They probably don't. If they don't have Tylenol, they probably don't fucking
I don't
test
think
for
the spectrum
autism.
is helpful, but that's another
Like in the
conversation.
U.S., we test a ton for autism. They're
He
talking
is
about
an amazing
there's Cuba,
little boy.
and I would
a
imagine
blessing
Cuba
from God.
has an acetaminophen equivalent. Right?
He's marvelous. He can
I can
count
look into it,
2,000.
but-
He knows all of his letters and the sounds they make and a word for each one. But he also has a lot of obstacles. He is nonverbal. He can say those numbers and letters, but there's no communication. Unless you've lived with profound autism, you have no idea. You have no idea. He, like you said, he will get frustrated because he can't speak.
Oh, they might require a fucking prescription.
It's not even that he can't speak. Sometimes he just doesn't understand what I'm saying. He understands the word no, but he doesn't understand the why behind the no. And that's a huge part of discipline. That's the discipline. So it's very hard to discipline a child with autism so you have these behaviors. And it's a very hopeless feeling. It's very isolating being a parent with a profound autistic child. Even just taking them over to your friend's house is something we just don't do because, again, they're going to be met with no, 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 and no understanding of why. And then there's a meltdown. And then you're in a situation where you're just helpless and you're just trying to protect your kid. So it's just better not to do it. You learn your limits, and it's been really hard. This is amazing that we're here today. And no one has been able to point to anything to say this is what caused it. Oh. And you can't point to that and say it didn't cause it. I have no idea. I am completely open. I'm not blaming anything, but I'm open to the discussion and the fact that there's work being done to find answers. I'm very grateful.
Don't say that.
I was already excited to vote for Mr. Trump anyway.
Unless I'm mistaken.
But when we got word of RFK doing his work, I was ecstatic. I could not wait for this work to be done, that somebody would try to find us.
Okay, this is going to be a very harsh thing to say, and it's not going to sound great, so don't clip it. There's a mother of a kid with severe autism, which apparently, according to Trump, gives her a PhD and a full research background in it. None of us are sitting here saying, yeah, severe autism is epic and based. We should have more of it.
Some answers. I'm just very grateful. I pray for my son every day and hope that he can get the help that he needs. And just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Makes sense to me.
Hi, my name's Jackie. I'm also extremely grateful
a lot
for the
more
opportunity
people are on
to
it.
be here
Yeah, send it in the Discord
and share my son's story. My son is Eddie. He's 11. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Amanda just explained. He's considered high
Wait, so he's omega not autistic?
functioning.
No, never mind.
He was not always high functioning. He was nonverbal till the age 4. We've had quite a hard time to get to the place where we are today. I am just so grateful to President Trump and the entire administration
Son
for
used to be autistic, and
finally
then I gave
listening
him
to
folic acid.
moms who have been crying out for help, for answers for years. I've met so many other moms with children on the spectrum in the 9 years since my son's diagnosis, and they all have very similar stories. And they've all just wanted somebody to listen,
you don't know what
to
you're
not
talking
ridicule
about.
them or
It's not a good
look
one.
at them like they were the crazy people. It's hard when you don't have doctors that take the time to really listen and find out when the change happened and what change happened. And it's just, I've been praying for this day for 9 years, and I'm so thankful to God for bringing the administration into our lives. And I am I'm speechless. This day is a day I never thought would happen. I thought that we would never have an administration that was courageous enough to look into things that no prior administration had. So I'm just here to express my gratitude, and I am looking forward to what comes from this, and hopefully we just get more answers. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can't believe they didn't mention 5G in this.
So I just want to say acetaminophen is basically Tylenol, essentially, because I noticed that term is used throughout this conference. So it's essentially Tylenol. And I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely.
Yeah, wait, I'm sitting here saying, yeah, it feels bad. It's just like a dude that's not a mother, doesn't have kids, like commenting on this, and then the fucking president does. So, like, whatever.
Necessary. I understand it's maybe 10% of the women that are pregnant.
Yeah, they're still covering up for the Epstein
would
shit.
Perhaps be forced to use it. And that would mean
and the real crime of
you just
firing
can't tough
Jimmy
it out.
Kimmel.
No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation, maybe stronger from me than from the group, because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say, I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. If you just can't, I mean, it's fight like hell not to take it. There may be a point where you have to, and
hold on.
You have to work out with yourself, so don't take Tylenol. Other things
let me look up something.
We recommend, or certainly I do anyway, is
didn't mean caps.
And it's so important to me to take see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine.
Kenvue.
Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1. And certain things I think you should do. We've already taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants...
The data to support this is bullshit. There's a study that Sweden did on its entire country that said there's no fucking correlation, if not a negative correlation. But the studies they're citing are huge confirmation bias bullshit.
That bumped into a body. And there were rumors about both of them for a long time. But we're having them taken out. We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted. And we think you should wait. I think you should wait till 12. You know, I'm making these statements from me. I'm not making them from these doctors, because when they talk about, you know, different results, different studies. I talk about a lot of common sense, and they have that too. They have that too, a lot. But I recommend the hepatitis B.
I want to see if
take it at 12. Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old, and there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12. It's not. Doesn't seem to be a problem at all. The MMR and the chickenpox. Chickenpox has already been broken out. It's a singular shot, but the MMR is not. And I've heard for years that there's a problem with it, but they say that there's no problem if you do each shot separately, not put together. So an MMR, go out and do it separately. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby after the baby's born. Every time the baby gets a shot, the baby gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol.
I was trying to see if he had said something like
now, Tylenol is fine for people that aren't pregnant, that aren't in the situation that we're talking about. One very specific situation. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. Break up your visits to the doctors. Break them up. Do it in 5 if you can. Now, it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient. Oh, you got to have to go back another year later. You're going to go back
Dr. Trump.
Each year for 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. Just break it up. Break it up, because it's too much liquid. Too many different things are going into that baby at too big a number. The size of this thing, when you look at it, it's like 80 different vaccines and beyond vaccines, and 80. Then you give that to a little kid. I mean, I can tell you that I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child, beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant.
It was me.
And I said, that's great. And one day I came in and she was crying her eyes out behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was.
Oh, no.
I said, are you okay? What happened? my boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy.
That's
you know
the part
him,
you're confused about.
Seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. You know, it goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. You know, we hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high.
RFK looks Liberty Switcher. RFK looks
fried.
like he's about to fucking pop.
She said I took him, he got developed
he's so red.
An unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see. That was the following day. After the vaccine. And I've seen it 2 other times, and I think 3 other times, but 2 other times, where they go to the doctor and they get the vaccine, they get the shot. The kid is, badly hurt. Let's be nice, badly hurt.
Wow,
and
2 times out of
just do
your
it. Break it up
life?
into 5. Break
Seems
it up
like a
into
pretty
4.
low
Break it up
fucking
into
rate.
3 if you have to. But go to the doctor 4 times instead of once, or 5 times instead of once. And for some reason, they insist that you put it all into the body, and maybe that's the drug companies that make more money that way. Maybe it's the doctors because they don't want to be.
Or if they can do it one by
doing
one.
this so much. Maybe it's the doctors. They get maybe more money. Who the hell knows what it is? Don't do it. Get them broken into 4 or 5 visits. Do it 4 or 5. That means you have 20%, 25% what you're putting into the baby's body. It can only help. And the other things I told you about, just the word tough it out. You know, it's easy for me to say tough it out, but
who knows what's up?
Sometimes in life with a lot of other things you have to tough it out also. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. When the baby's born, they throw it at you. Here, give them a couple of Tylenol. They give them a shot. They give them a vaccine. And every time they give them a vaccine, they're throwing Tylenol. And some of these babies, they're long born, and all of a sudden they're gone. And it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside.
The downside is a fever that can actually lead to very severe consequences.
Downside at all. And break up MMR. Break it up. It's practically a known fact that if you break it up, you're not going to have a problem. But for years, we've been hearing how bad MMR is as a combination. And I'm very happy that you broke out chickenpox, because that was really a problem.
Yeah,
and there are other things. It's interesting because there are other things, we were talking about it, other different drugs, pills that you take that we know are so bad, and they don't take them anymore. But for some reason, with this, they keep taking it. Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it. You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe, but don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. And don't give it to the baby after the baby is born. And you know what? We have,
thanks to God, Emperor Trump,
more than 3 years left. And I told Bobby and the doctors behind me, and they are so committed to this, I told them that this is the number one thing I want to do from you. And, we have something else called Favored Nations, where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,000%, by 900, 600, 500, 1,200. We're going to be reducing drug prices at levels never seen. It's called Favored Nations. We're going to be paying what right now, we're like the garbage can for the rest of the world, and we have been for forever. We pay much higher for drugs than the rest of the world. We subsidize the rest of the world. We're not doing that anymore. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's bigger than anything. I told the story the other night that I was so proud in my first term that for the final year, drug prices went down 0.25%, and I was so proud. I said, why? I'm the first one to do it. I think it was 28 years, they said, where drug prices went down from the beginning of the term to the end. And I was so proud. I called a news conference. I said, drug prices have gone down. First time it's happened in 28 years. You know what it was? 0.25%. I was so proud. Now we're going to have them go down from $100 a pill to $9 a pill. From
it's not
$1,300 for a shot of like an Ozempic or the fat.
Even
I call it
the
the fat
most,
pill or the fat drug.
The highest correlation.
Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat. They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, you don't look it to me. But they paid $1,300, $1,200, and they go to London and they pay $88. And they call me, they go, what's this all about? We're subsidizing the rest of the world stupidly because we have a lot of stupid people in this country running things. And how big is that? But to me, that's nothing compared to autism. I see that gorgeous boy. I have a big present for him in the back. You know, you bring him back. We're going to bring him into the Oval Office. I have the best present he's ever going to get, okay? A big one. I saved it for you, okay? Because I heard you were coming. Look how beautiful he is. So that's it. There's nothing much to say. Don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, and don't give Tylenol to your child when he's born or she's born. Don't give it.
Yeah.
Just don't give it. And we're going to have, I think, really, if you do all the things that I say, break it up. Just break it up. Break up the shots with the doctor. MMRs, as I told you, separate.
All right.
Chickenpox already separate. You do these things. I'm telling you, I want to, when I leave office,
okay,
I don't want to have,
looping around in circles,
it's going to be the kind of number that we're hearing where it's 1 in 32 or 1 in 10, because I've heard 1 in 10
I'm probably going to wrap up after this.
And in California, it's really bad. I want it to be, let's get it back to maybe 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 or maybe none in 20,000.
None
and the only way you're going to do that, because this is artificially induced. This is induced by something. You don't go from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000, then to 1 in 10. That means you're taking something and something's wrong.
Just out of curiosity.
And I feel very certain, and I know I'll be criticized. Someday they'll look back and they'll say, well, it wasn't, but I think it will. I think we're going to have a tremendous, this is the most important thing. There's nothing more important than me. We cured inflation that Biden gave us. He gave us so much inflation, the biggest ever in history. We got inflation done. We brought prices down. We gave you the largest tax cuts, all that stuff. It doesn't mean a thing compared to what we're doing today. This means
we would have
everything.
seen the largest jump when
we're gonna
Tylenol was introduced.
Save a lot of children from a tough life.
Unless it took them
really
45
We're
years
save a
to
lot
start
of parents
using
from a tough
Tylenol.
life. Okay, how about a few questions? Let's just make it on this subject. This is so beyond as a subject that I'd rather not talk about, some nonsense on the economy. And I will say this, the economy is unbelievable.
Okay,
the stock market just hit another record high and all that stuff. This means more to me. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I have one on your announcement, one on vaccines that's also related.
Yes.
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism and acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know. Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked.
Fuck, what am I looking at?
I was saying something similar, not as strongly, because now facts are on our side. But I was saying it with Bobby 20 years ago, and I was attacked. I said, whoa, what was that all about? I had no idea. You get attacked. I don't know.
There it is.
The medical community, the drug companies, doctors. I don't know what it is. All I want to do, I don't care. I don't care about being attacked. It doesn't matter to me. I believe that the numbers at the end of our term or shortly thereafter could be really phenomenal. I want it to go up just like it came down to this horrible level. Okay. 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I was told.
Okay. I got to run. I got a meeting.
1 in 10. I was told 1 in 12. Today I heard 1 in 31. If you add.
Thanks everyone for stopping by. I do this pretty much every day. So, yeah. Fucking God help our children and our mothers. Christ almighty.
Will you shut up, man? Listen,
Thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. Yeah. I will see you all when I see you.